Chapter 385. Hearing Ji Dong's words, the look in Fury's eyes gradually changed. Ji Dong's voice suddenly became agitated as he said in a loud voice, "I've already made preparations. After I've avenged the flaming bar in 10 years, I'll follow him. Senior brother, I know you're in so much pain that you'd rather die. If you want to die, I won't stop you. However, if you want to die like a man and meet senior sister Yi Xin in the other world after you die so that you can answer to her, then you'll have to avenge her before you die. We don't have the right to die if we don't completely destroy those bastards. Do you understand?" When the crowd outside heard Ji Dong's almost shouting voice, they were all stunned. He's actually advising the Thunder Emperor to die. Miao Miao was about to rush in when she heard this, but Yao Qianshu held her back and shook his head at her. Fury looked at Ji Dong and was about to say something, but Ji Dong raised his hand to stop him. "Senior brother, you don't have to say anything now. I'll give you 1 day to think about it. This time, I've brought the students of the academy founded by teacher to the Heavenly STEM Academy for an exchange. If you're willing to be my comrade again, then we'll stand on the battlefield tomorrow, and let us have a good spar. If you choose to continue sinking, then after I've avenged the flaming bar and senior sister Yi Xin in the future, I'll also despise you. Thunder Emperor versus Tyrant, let's teach the Heavenly STEM Academy a good lesson. I'll be waiting for you." As he spoke, a light flashed in Ji Dong's hand and a bottle of 1,000-year life source was released from the vermilion bird bracelet. He stuffed it into Fury's hand and did not linger. He turned around and left. The first thing Ji Dong saw when he walked out of the room was Miao Miao's murderous gaze. Shaking his head, Ji Dong patted her shoulder and said, "Don't disturb him. Worry about him and you'll be in a mess. Don't let your emotions cloud your intelligence." Miao Miao was stunned when she heard Ji Dong's words. She was definitely not stupid. In an instant she seemed to have understood something. She glanced at Fury, who was still standing in the room, then gritted her teeth and followed Ji Dong. Ji Dong did not continue to stay at the Heavenly STEM Academy. After leaving the Earth Faculty Building, he bid farewell to his friends and returned to the hotel. When he returned to the entrance of the hotel, he saw the graceful figure once again. She was still standing in the same place as last night, quietly waiting. Only when she saw Ji Dong walk over did a satisfied smile blossom on her calm face. At this moment, Ji Dong had no choice but to admit that a ripple had appeared in his heart. When it comes to emotions, sometimes it doesn't need to be very touching. Instead, some subtle things are more likely to move people. "Don't wait for me in the future." Ji Dong did not say anything else. He went straight into the hotel as if he did not see Chen Sichuan. Chen Sichuan was not afraid at all. She was still smiling as she followed beside him. She didn't seem to have been bullied at all. Ji Dong was actually very puzzled. Why was this girl's mental state so tenacious? He had clearly rejected her more than once, and even attacked her, but her attitude towards him was becoming more and more intimate. In fact, he did not know that Chen Sichuan had thought it through. Since she was reborn as Princess Xian from the Flaming Bar, she had been with Ji Dong. It could be said that she had seen another side of Ji Dong. She was quite satisfied with her current life. Contentment always brings happiness. This was the mentality that Chen Sichuan summed up recently. She told herself that there was nothing to be dissatisfied with her current life. Ji Dong rejected her, which proved that he loved the Flaming Bar, which meant that he loved her deeply. After she was reborn, she could be with him, see him every day, and help him in battles. It seemed that she was even more intimate with him now than when she was in the Flaming Bar. After asking many girls, she concluded that the path she should take was to fall in love with him. She should not be obsessed with the gains and losses of a city or a place. Instead, she should use her gentle love to slowly melt his heart. Anyway, she had plenty of time. At most, she could spend the rest of her life with him. If his love for the Flaming Bar could last forever, it would be worth it even if she kept falling in love with him. With such a man in love with her, what else could she be dissatisfied with? Therefore, she no longer cared about the bet. As long as she could see him every day, be with him, and let him see her, that was enough. Therefore, with the support of such a strong mentality, Chen Sichuan's endurance was much stronger than Ji Dong had imagined. Of course, this was only for Ji Dong alone. "Teacher Ji Dong, the vice commander is here," Chen Sichuan said with a smile. When she was talking to Ji Dong, she purposely lifted her veil, presenting her perfect face to Ji Dong alone. Looking at her sweet smile, Ji Dong felt helpless at this time. As the saying goes, one does not hit a smiling person. He really could not refuse her liking him, and Chen Sichuan had never caused him any trouble. Now, she did not even talk about liking him, and only silently guarded him. Even a nitpicky person could only look at her and say that she was impeccable. Ji Dong now deeply regretted letting her become the heavenly stem Imu holy disciple. In this way, wouldn't she have to be with him for a long time? Out of sight, out of mind, and out of mind, out of mind? Ji Dong also knew that Lan Bauer and Ah Jin had feelings for him, but he was not worried about anything. After all, as long as he explicitly rejected them, Lan Bauer would never pester him, let alone Ah Jin. The pride in Ah Jin's bones was no less than his, and Lan Bauer's reserved and shyness of a young girl naturally would not do anything without his approval. However, Chen Sichuan was completely different. Her perfect face was comparable to the flaming bar. Moreover, in order to pursue him, she had let go of her reserved, bashful, and even her dignity. Moreover, as a Mu type, she was of great help to Ji Dong, be it in terms of mana or soul. Although he did not feel dependent on her, he could already feel more at ease with her around. It could be said that Ah Jin and Lan Bauer's destructive power was not comparable to Chen Sichuan's. However, what could Ji Dong do? He really had no choice. "Lang Tianyi is here? So fast?" Ji Dong said subconsciously after seeing Chen Sichuan's momentary absent-mindedness. Chen Sichuan was very satisfied with Ji Dong's absent-mindedness. Her senses were equally sharp, and she could clearly sense that Ji Dong's resistance towards her seemed to be constantly decreasing. Although this process was extremely slow, it was enough. "You agreed to let him follow you. If I were him, I would probably be even faster. He's waiting for you in the hotel room. I'll bring you there." Chen Sichuan brought Ji Dong to a newly opened room on the same floor as Ji Dong. As expected, Lang Tianyi was already waiting there. "Young master." No, Ji Dong, I'm here." Lang Tianyi looked at Ji Dong, his gaze clearly burning with passion. He hadn't even done any handover in the army, and had only applied for leave before running home as fast as he could to tell his father and uncle what had happened. He had never seen his father so surprised before. At that moment, his father had even jumped up in excitement, shouting that the Lang family was finally going to stand up for themselves. Following that, Lang Xie spoke with Lang Tianyi in an extremely solemn and serious manner for the entire night. Everything they talked about revolved around how he should assist Ji Dong. He had even given a strict order that no matter what Ji Dong said, it would be an undeniable order. With his father's strong support, he naturally no longer had any reservations. With the authority of the Diamond Corps, it was simply too easy to find someone in the Central Plains city. Furthermore, Ji Dong's group's target was so obvious. Thus, he had directly come looking for them today. "Have you explained everything to your family?" Ji Dong asked with a smile. Lang Tianyi nodded. "Father said that I will listen to all your instructions." Ji Dong smiled and shook his head. "I've said it before, from today onwards we're just comrades. Alright, go home first and spend more time with your family. Once I'm done with my matters in the Central Plains city, you'll have to leave with me." "Yes." Lang Tianyi excitedly bade farewell to Ji Dong and Chen Sichuan, and left the inn. Chen Sichuan looked at Ji Dong and asked, "Teacher Ji Dong, are you really going to let our students face the top 30 students of the Yinyang Hall?" Ji Dong nodded and said, "When have I ever said anything that doesn't count?" I'll still need your help with this matter. How about this? Give each of them a sixth-order nucleus according to their attribute. Tomorrow, you and I will use our mental energy to command them. All right. Chen Sichuan's eyes revealed a flash of understanding, already somewhat understanding Ji Dong's way of doing things. She said, I'll go now. Finished speaking, she turned and left. Looking at Chen Sichuan's back, Ji Dong couldn't help staring blankly. This girl was too smart, she didn't need too much explanation from him to understand his meaning. If there wasn't the flaming bar, perhaps? Unfortunately, there wasn't any perhaps. Early in the morning, the 30 Blazing Academy students all stood in front of the inn's entrance valiantly and in high spirits, ready to set out. Today they didn't look at all as plain as before, each of them had changed into neat and tidy clothes. Most importantly, they were all wearing the magic power armor the Academy had specially prepared for them. Even though it was only light armor, the faint light emitted from the magic power armor still made passers-by raise their eyebrows. Even commoners who had never come into contact with magic masters knew that this kind of thing like magic power armor was absolutely priceless. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that each piece of this light armor was worth 10,000 gold. With them, the ability to attack and defend could be increased by at least 20 to 30%. Wearing this magic power armor, anyone would know that they were true magic masters, no matter how young they were. Of course, these magic power armors weren't freely given to them by the Academy. Zhu Rong wasn't that generous. Even if the students were willing to pay, Blazing Academy wouldn't sell them. Any magic power weapon had a price but no market. Zhu Rong's way of doing things was very simple. After this batch of students graduated, those who were willing to stay at the Academy to further their studies would continue wearing the armor. After serving the Academy for 10 years, the armor would belong to them. This way of doing things seemed very harsh, but none of the Sun Moon Hall students objected. They all signed the agreement with the Academy. Of course, this wasn't entirely because of the magic power armor, there were many other reasons. The most important one was naturally their teacher Ji Dong. After they signed the agreement, Zhu Rong directly waived all of their future tuition fees. In order to build this Blazing Academy's Sun Moon Hall, he could be said to have spared no effort. At this moment, these students were all very excited. Each of them wore a glove on their left hand. The reason for wearing the glove was of course not to protect their hand, but to hold the crystal core inside. A crystal core as high as the 6th step. They had never thought that they would be able to use it. With the help of the glove, not only could their left hand complete the connection with the formation, they could also use the crystal core to recover their magic power. After all, attack and defense weren't their weaknesses, their weakness was the weakness of their own magic power. Of course, this didn't mean that their magic power would be strong with the crystal core. No matter how good the crystal core was, it still needed time to replenish the consumed magic power, and no matter how much it was replenished, it couldn't exceed the maximum level of the user's magic power. Otherwise, without these restrictions, and without considering the value of the crystal core, wouldn't it mean that every magic master only needed a high-level crystal core to become an expert? There was no way Ji Dong didn't know about these restrictions, but he still gave everyone a crystal core of the 6th step. He naturally had his own reasons. Ji Dong was still wearing the white robe that Chen Sichuan had given him, and appeared in front of the students. What surprised him was that today, Chen Sichuan was not wearing yesterday's long dress, but had changed into the matching outfit that was extremely similar to his. Although she was still wearing a mask, when the two stood together, their temperaments were extremely compatible. Feeling Ji Dong's somewhat doubtful gaze, Chen Sichuan smiled sweetly, saying, "Yesterday you said that each side would send 2 teachers to guide their students. Then, today I'm naturally the other teacher apart from you. There's nothing wrong with wearing the same clothes as you, right? A straight body doesn't fear a crooked shadow. Don't tell me you're afraid of being misunderstood?" With these words, even if Ji Dong was afraid of being misunderstood, he couldn't refute her. He frowned and said in a low voice, "Let's go." When they once again arrived at the Heavenly STEM Academy, or rather, when they approached the Heavenly STEM Academy, the situation was completely different from the day before. Even Ji-dong couldn't help but be surprised. The walls in front of the Heavenly STEM Academy were already filled with people. Chapter 386. Standing in front of the Heavenly STEM Academy's gates and the surrounding walls were no ordinary people. Majestic earth-shattering dragons exuded an oppressive aura, and in front of each earth-shattering dragon stood a stalwart diamond core soldier, fully armed. At least 3 streets in the surroundings had already been restricted, and the somber atmosphere easily gave off an enormous pressure. Seeing the diamond core on the plains and seeing them in the city were 2 completely different feelings. On the vast plains, although the diamond core had also given people a shock, that was a shock brought by a group. But here, one could clearly feel the strength of each diamond core soldier. With the earth-shattering dragons as the backdrop and their war hammers dangling from the ground, the imposing aura of the continent's strongest army was released to the fullest in this narrow city. When had the students from Blazing Academy ever seen such a scene? All of them immediately fell silent out of fear, their gazes simultaneously falling on Ji-dong. At this moment, with the sonorous sound of powerful footsteps, 3 diamond core commanders wearing magic armor strode in front of Ji-dong. The one in the lead was the commander of the diamond core, Lang Xie, who held an important position in the Central Plains Empire's military. Leading his 2 subordinates, he strode 20 meters in front of Ji-dong and abruptly took a step forward. His armor emitted a deep clang as he knelt on one knee, saying, "Commander of the Diamond Corps, Lang Xie, pays his respects to the young master." Following Lang Xie's actions, at least 300 Diamond Legion soldiers moved in unison, taking a step forward and kneeling on one knee. As their knees hit the ground, a dull thud rang out. The most shocking thing was that as they knelt, the earth-shattering dragons behind them also knelt down, their majestic roars shaking the hearts of everyone present. "We pay our respects to young master." The students behind Ji-dong were stupefied by the scene in front of them. This steel army with a dragon as a mount, was actually Teacher Ji-dong's people? At this moment, an indescribable feeling appeared in their hearts, as if a special flame was fiercely burning within them. "General Lang, why have you come?" Ji-dong stepped forward and helped Lang Xie up. He was also rather surprised that this imperial great general, his grandfather's most capable aide, would appear here. Lang Xie stood up, a faint smile on his face as he said, "Young lord is here to create a miracle today. How can Lang Xie not be here to witness it? Today both the Prince Equivalent and the Crown Prince are here, and our Diamond Legion is here to protect them." As a matter of fact, there was no need for him to personally protect the Prince of Equality and the Crown Prince. Even if the Emperor were to go on an inspection tour, he didn't have to show himself. It would be enough for his subordinates to protect them. It must be known that he was also a powerhouse of this generation who had stepped into the realm of a supreme martial artist. Ji-dong said, "General Wolf, you're too polite. I'm just a junior, how would I dare to trouble you?" Lang Xie sighed lightly, saying, "Young lord has repaid evil with kindness. Lang Xie cannot thank you enough. Honestly, I really hope that young lord can agree to the Equality King's suggestion, and take over as the next Equality King. If that's the case, the glory of our Equality King bloodline will continue." Ji-dong shook his head and said, "I already have enough responsibilities on my shoulders." Lang Xie smiled faintly as he said, "Let's not talk about this, let me lead the way for young lord." As he said that, Lang Xie waved his hands, and the soldiers of the Diamond Legion and their mounts stood up at the same time, moving to the sides in an orderly fashion. In an instant they were in formation, with Ji-dong and his students in the center, as though they were their guards, escorting the 30 students towards the gates of the Heavenly STEM Academy. Ji-dong's heart stirred. He already understood why Lang Xie had done this. He was doing this to boost the morale of the Blazing Academy students and himself. As the commander of the Diamond Legion, he did not need to do such a thing, and his grandfather would definitely not let him do such a pointless thing. This was his own intention, and the only reason was Lang Tianyi. With Lang Xie's understanding of the current situation, he had definitely guessed the reason why he had Lang Tianyi join. The value of a heavenly stem holy disciple was immeasurable, and Lang Xie had come to repay him. To have the commander of the Diamond Legion lead the way, this was no longer a matter of glory, but a matter of noble status. In the entire Central Plains Empire, perhaps only the Prince of Equality could receive such treatment, not even the Emperor. Entering the Heavenly STEM Academy, on both sides of the wide road, there was a Diamond Legion soldier every 20 meters. Wherever Ji Dong passed, the soldiers would all kneel down on one knee and salute. Many Heavenly STEM Academy students and teachers were watching from a distance, their gazes blank. Wasn't the Prince of Equality already here? Just what kind of important person was he to be able to do such a thing? Very quickly, the group arrived at the Heavenly STEM Academy's training grounds. This place had long since been prepared. The training grounds were filled with Heavenly STEM Academy students, with the Diamond Legion soldiers in the innermost circle. To the north, on the platform, there were already many people seated. The three people seated in the center were the Prince of Equality, Ji Yunxing, the Crown Prince of the Central Plains Empire, Ji Yeshang, and the Dean of the Heavenly STEM Academy, Ji Mingxian. Also seated in this row were the President of the Magic Guild, Hilo, and the Vice President, Wofu. Behind them were the board members of the Heavenly STEM Academy and some of the elders of the Magic Guild. Seeing Lang Xie personally leading the way for Ji Dong, Ji Mingxuan's expression turned ugly. The reason he was able to sit in the center was naturally not because of his identity as the Dean of the Heavenly STEM Academy, but because he was the great-uncle of the Prince of Equality, the grandfather of the current Emperor of the Central Plains. Lang Xie brought Ji Dong all the way to the center of the training grounds. Ji Dong indicated that he would not proceed any further, and only then did Lang Xie walk up to the platform. After bowing to Ji Dong, Hyoheim also sat down in the first row. On the other side of the training grounds, under the leadership of the Heavenly STEM Academy's board member, Huang Lisan, the 30 students of the Yin-Yang Hall were already prepared. There, Ji Dong even saw the person he wanted to see the most, the Thunder Emperor, Fury. Fury's messy hair had already been cut, returning to its steel needle-like appearance. His gaze was no longer empty, but compared to before, it was much deeper. When he saw Ji Dong, he nodded forcefully. 2 balls of light exploded from his eyes, filled with a strong desire to fight. The group of Heavenly STEM holy disciples did not go up to the platform, instead standing together with Fury. Ji Dong could clearly see that Miao Miao was standing closest to Fury, and Lang Tianyi was also standing with them. They were all looking in Ji Dong's direction. Jin and Lan Baoer's gazes almost immediately landed on Chen Xishuan, who was following beside Ji Dong. Seeing her and Ji Dong's matching outfits, the 2 girls' gazes darkened at the same time, especially Jin, whose eyes flashed with a cold light, even revealing a hint of murderous intent. Ji Dong naturally sensed Jin's murderous intent. Based on his understanding of Jin, unless Chen Xishuan's armor of eternity could recover all its magic, she would definitely die. He could not help but frown subconsciously. Chen Xishuan, on the other hand, seemed to not notice Jin's gaze. She was still smiling as she silently followed beside Ji Dong. Huang Lisan quickly walked up to Ji Dong. When he saw that Ji Dong had been led here by Lang Xie, and that the members of the Diamond Corps were actually so respectful, his expression also changed. This young man really could not be provoked. Vice Dean Ji Dong, welcome your Blazing Academy to the Heavenly STEM Academy for an exchange. The method of exchange will be carried out according to what we agreed upon yesterday. Since everyone is here, shall we begin now? Ji Dong shook his head. Wait a moment, let's wait for 2 more people. Huang Lisin was taken aback. He looked in the direction of the platform and said with some difficulty, "That's not very good. Look, His Highness the Prince of Equality, His Highness the Crown Prince, as well as the President and Vice President of the Wizard Association, have all arrived. If we continue to wait, I'm afraid," Ji Dong said indifferently, "they will understand. I said wait, so wait a moment." As a Heavenly STEM Academy director, an 8-time champion, it could be said that Huang Lisin hadn't encountered such a rebuke in many years, but he just couldn't get angry. He helplessly nodded, saying, "Then we'll wait." He thought to himself, "You said you'd wait. The Prince of Equality is your grandfather, don't tell me the Wizard Association's people won't be impatient. Moreover, why isn't this Ji Dong going over to salute the Prince of Equality?" While thinking, his gaze fell on the group of Blazing Academy students behind Ji Dong. Seeing the light magic armor these students wore, he couldn't help but reveal a trace of disdain. So what if they have magic armor? Magic weapons can't completely make up for the difference in magic power between two sides. Moreover, does our Heavenly STEM Academy's Yin-Yang Hall students not have armor? Among the Yin-Yang Hall students, the top 10 students all had magic full-body armor, and those outside the top 10 also had light armor. Their equipment would only be better than Blazing Academy's, and wouldn't fall behind. Huang Lisin clearly understood that Dean Ji Mingxian held back a mouthful of resentment. Yesterday, after Ji Dong left, Ji Mingxian summoned all the directors, as well as all the Yin-Yang Hall students, and issued a death order. In today's fight, they could only win and not lose. Those who didn't go all out would be directly expelled from Heavenly STEM Academy. Gui Water Director Elder Ling even went to find Yin-Yang Hall's chief Ling Yu to talk for a long time. In today's first exchange, Heavenly STEM Academy was determined to win. As for the second match between Ji Dong and Fury, then no matter who won or lost, it wouldn't have too great of an effect on Heavenly STEM Academy. If Fury lost, he would similarly lose face for Zhurong. In any case, they were both Zhurong's disciples. Ji Dong wasn't the least bit anxious. He closed his eyes, silently waiting. On the platform, Ji Mingxian said a bit discontentedly, "What's going on? What is he waiting for? Don't tell me he wants so many of us, as well as the entire Academy's teachers and students, to continue waiting?" Ji Yunxing said somewhat helplessly, "Granduncle, let's just wait a little longer. I believe that Ji Dong definitely has his reasons for doing this." Ji Mingxian snorted coldly and said, "Your good grandson is very arrogant. He doesn't have any respect for his juniors. Do you know what he said to me when he arrived at the academy yesterday?" Ji Yunxing smiled indifferently and said, "Granduncle, I can't do anything about this child, Ji Dong. He didn't grow up by my side and has suffered a lot. He won't be restricted by the Prince Equivalent's residence. Furthermore, with his current status, even I have to be wary of him. Don't forget, he is this generation's Heavenly STEM Holy Disciple's Holy King." Ji Mingxuan's expression changed. Just as she was about to say something, Ji Dong, who was on the field, suddenly opened his eyes at the same time and looked towards the sky. At this moment, a yellow light descended from the sky. It looked like a huge yellow ball of light. As it descended, it gave off a heavy feeling, as though a mountain was descending from the sky. The Prince Equivalent, Ji Yunxing, was the first to stand up. Although there was a look of surprise in his eyes, it was mostly filled with mockery. He smiled at Ji Mingxian and said, "I think the person Ji Dong has been waiting for has arrived." When he saw the huge yellow light descending from the sky, Ji Mingxuan's expression immediately became even more unsightly. How could he not know who it was? The light didn't land on the platform. Instead, it landed in front of Ji Dong. Under everyone's gazes, the light dispersed and revealed two figures. They were the Heavenly Dipper Highness, Ji Zhangxin, and the Auspicious Highness, Shangguan Yinkong. The auras of Supremes filled the entire Heavenly STEM Academy with a heavy atmosphere. At this moment, everyone on the platform quickly got up and left the platform to welcome them. In front of Supremes, who would dare to continue sitting? Ancestor Xian. Ji Dong bowed in greeting. Ji Zhangxin smiled and said, "We're not too late, right?" Ji Dong's gaze met Ji Zhangxin's. He naturally knew that this was Ancestor Xian's way of building up support for him. When he saw the encouragement in Ji Zhangxin's eyes, he resolutely nodded his head. Without a doubt, Hioheim and Ji Zhangxin were displaying their confidence. Shangguan Yinkong smiled and said, "Good child, no matter what, great-grandmother will always support you." Ji Dong's ice-cold gaze softened a lot, and he silently nodded his head. "Greetings, old master." Under Lang Xie's lead, all the Diamond Corps warriors in charge of maintaining order knelt on the ground. This time, they didn't kneel on one knee like when they received Ji Dong. Instead, they knelt on both knees. Every single Diamond Corps warrior's eyes shone with a blazing radiance. Everyone respected experts, not to mention that the expert in front of them was their old master, a true Supreme Being expert, one of the few people who stood at the peak of the world, and the guardian of the Central Plains Empire. "All of you rise." Ji Zhangxin smiled and made a light lifting motion with his hands. Immediately, a ball of dense yellow light spread out like a ripple with his body as the center, lifting all the soldiers of the Diamond Corps who were kneeling down. Just this move alone was enough to shock everyone present. In that instant, Ji Dong suddenly understood something. Lang Xie probably didn't bring the Diamond Corps here just to build up support for him. At the same time, it was to allow him, the descendant of the equivalent king, to display his strength in front of the Diamond Corps and truly conquer the hearts of these powerful warriors. Chapter 387. General Lang Xie has really put a lot of thought into this. Ji Dong couldn't help but reveal a faint smile. Only by conquering the Diamond Corps could he, the young master of the Equality King, truly be acknowledged by the Equality King. Even though he didn't care about this, it clearly wasn't a bad thing, at least for the future Holy War. Without a doubt, powerful corps like the Diamond Corps and the Annihilation Corps would become the absolute main force of the future Holy War. We pay our respects to His Majesty Big Dipper, His Majesty Great Fortune. Under Ji Yunsheng and Ji Mingxuan's lead, the crowd that had previously sat upright on the platform came forward and simultaneously bowed. Their words undoubtedly ignited the entire Heavenly STEM Academy. Practically all the students, including the Blazing Academy students that Ji Dong had brought, after a brief moment of sluggishness, saluted at the same time. In their hearts, Supreme Being experts were more like legends. How many of them had actually seen a true Supreme Being expert? At this moment, every single student only felt a sense of honor in their hearts. The people in front of them were true Supreme Beings. Not only that, they were two Supreme Beings. Just this point alone was enough to conquer their hearts. And the exchange that no one originally thought Blazing Academy would win gradually changed the minds of the spectators. Didn't they see that after the two Supreme Experts arrived, their first target was this young Vice Dean of Blazing Academy? The well-informed Heavenly STEM Academy teachers and students even more knew that this Vice Dean was as famous as Thunder Emperor Fury, a tyrant of a generation who had once personally killed the previous empire's crown prince. The majority of the spectators were currently filled with excitement. To be able to attract so many great personages, today's exchange would undoubtedly be brilliant beyond compare. To be able to personally witness such a battle, especially the contest between the tyrant and the Thunder Emperor, was definitely a great fortune for them. No need to be so courteous. Since both sides have already arrived, let's begin today's exchange. We're only here to watch the ceremony. Ji Zhangxin said with a smile. Ji Mingxian forced her expression to look a bit more natural. Hioheim said, "Big brother, please take the seat of honor." Ji Zhangxin nodded. Hioheim said, "It's up to you, I believe you won't disappoint me." "Definitely." Ji Dong's answer was simple and powerful. The rostrum was once again filled with people. Of course, this time, it was the two supreme martial artists who sat in the most central seat. Ji Yunxing and Ji Mingxian could only accompany them on their side. Ji Mingxuan's lips curled into a cold smile as she thought to herself, "All right, all of you are here to support that brat Ji Dong. I'd like to see how he's going to win against my Yin Yang Hall today. Even if you bribed the students of the Yin Yang Hall, what's the point? How can the status of the Heavenly STEM Academy be that simple?" Huang Lisan's expression changed several times, and his gaze towards Ji Dong gradually turned into one of disbelief. He had never expected that Ji Dong would be able to invite two supreme experts. Even Crown Prince Ji Yeshang might not be able to do this, but Ji Dong had done it. This caused his opinion of this young man to change once again. "Deputy Dean Ji Dong, can we start now?" Ji Dong nodded and said, "Let's begin. My side and assistant Chen Sichuan will be in charge." Huang Lisan said, "All right, then please enter the arena. We're also ready." Finished speaking, he then returned to his own side. He was even thinking in his heart whether he should make Blazing Academy lose a bit more gracefully in this first exchange competition. After all, Ji Dong had invited two supreme experts to watch the battle. If Blazing Academy was defeated in one go, perhaps the two supreme experts wouldn't look good either. 5 elements rotate, mutually generate and circulate. Formation. With a loud shout from Ji Dong, the eyes of the 30 Blazing Academy students brightened at the same time. The 30 people instantly divided into 6 groups, their footsteps moving quickly. In the blink of an eye, they had already formed a formation 10 meters in front of Chen Sichuan and Jin Dong. Every group of 5 was like a 6-petal flower blooming. The yin-yang complement formation was instantly formed. Seeing their formation, the spectating experts on the platform were all a bit astonished. They were all too familiar with the Demon Master's encirclement battle. Under normal circumstances, the first order of business in a team battle was to exert the suppression of the 5 elements. If the conditions allowed, they would definitely form a formation of all 10 elements. But the students Ji Dong had brought clearly didn't do this. The Yin-Yang Hall's side also moved. They also had 30 people, but they formed 3 circular formations, which were the most basic and ordinary 3 all-element formations. Ling Yu stood at the forefront of the central circular formation, smiling at Ji Dong's side. She said, "Big brother Ji Dong, since it's a fight, I won't be lenient." Ji Dong smiled faintly. "Please do your best. Don't cry when you lose." Ling Yu pouted unhappily. "Big brother Ji Dong, don't look down on me. I'm the Yin-Yang Hall's chief disciple right now." Ji Dong looked at Huang Lisan behind the Yin-Yang Hall students. "Let's begin." This kind of competition didn't need a referee. With so many people watching, the outcome would be very easy to see. Huang Lisan nodded at Hyoheim, then shouted, "Begin, Yin-Yang Crown Release, suppression of the 5 elements." The formation formed by the 30 students of the Yin-Yang Hall instantly burst forth with powerful mana fluctuations. With Lung Yu, Zhu Gui, Kar, Bissot, and the others in the lead, the geniuses led the others to release their Yin-Yang crown at the same time. Their movements were neat and uniform. Almost at the same time, 30 rays of mana rose up. At the same time, a 10-colored brilliance blossomed, and the intense suppression of the 5 elements was released in an instant. The Yin-Yang Hall was the Yin-Yang Hall after all. The elites of the Heavenly STEM Academy didn't need any preparation at all. The fusion of the 10 elements and the suppression of the 5 elements erupted in a perfect manner, instantly enveloping the entire area. At the same time, the Yin-Yang crown on the heads of every student of the Yin-Yang Hall had already appeared. Even the one with the lowest cultivation had 4 or more crowns. After the reconstruction of the Yin-Yang Hall, in order to ensure the overall strength of the Yin-Yang Hall, in addition to talent, the selection process paid more attention to the level of magic power. After all, the Yin-Yang Hall was the signature of the Heavenly STEM Academy. What appeared on Ling Yu's head was the Yin-Yang crown. Level 55 magic power was a clear demonstration of her genius. Ji Dong still clearly remembered that when he first met Ling Yu, her control of magic power was already an eye-opener. All of them had the strength of 4 or more crowns, and all of them were equipped with magic power armors. The neat and almost perfect cooperation showed the formidable strength of the Yin Yang Hall in an instant. The two supremes on the rostrum and the people from the Guild of Magic couldn't help but nod inwardly. As expected of the #1 academy in the world, the students cultivated were indeed extraordinary. It was a miracle that the Heavenly STEM Academy could recover so quickly after such a heavy blow to the evil Saint Island. At the same time as the students of the Yin Yang Hall released their Yin Yang crowns, the 30 students of the Blazing Academy's Sun Moon Hall also released their respective Yin Yang crowns. There were also 30 Yin Yang crowns, but when they released them, almost everyone who supported Ji Dong and hoped that Ji Dong would bring them another miracle frowned. At this time, Ajin's murderous and cold gaze even moved away from Qin Sichuan for a moment. There were also 30 students from the Blazing Academy, but they couldn't even achieve 3 crowns. Only half of them could reach 3 crowns, and most of them had just broken through 3 crowns. They were all around level 30, while the other half were stuck at 2 crowns. The worst one was only level 25. Seeing the magic power levels of the Blazing Academy students, Ji Mingxian couldn't help but laugh, a laugh full of mockery. He wants to contend with our Yin Yang Hall with just this trash? Is that brat Ji Dong's brain fried? No wonder he turned into a head full of white hair. I'd like to see how he'll deal with this. Seeing the levels of the students on Ji Dong's side, Ji Zhangxin and Shangguan Yinkong frowned at the same time. Ji Yesheng directly closed his eyes, Ji Yunxing put his hand on his forehead, the corners of his mouth twitching. On the Heavenly STEM Holy Disciples' side, Yao Qianshu's eyes widened, Du Ming and Du Xiner opened their mouths in shock, Ajin's expression was gloomy, Lan Bauer covered her mouth for fear of crying out, and Fury the Lightning Emperor revealed a puzzled expression. If there was one person who supported Ji Dong without changing expression, it would be Wolf Will, because among everyone present, only he had truly seen the strength of the Blazing Academy's Sun Moon Hall students, and only he truly understood that the outcome of this competition was still unknown. Both sides released their Yin Yang crowns at the same time, and the tyrannical suppression of the 5 elements that covered the entire field firmly pressed down on the Blazing Academy students. Their originally weak magic, under such powerful suppression, the Yin Yang crowns on their heads even trembled slightly. Let alone fighting, it was hard to say whether they could continue to stand firm under the suppression of the 3-5 elements great suppression formations of the Yin Yang Hall. As the leader of the Yin Yang Hall, Ling Yu didn't even intend to give the order to attack, because she felt that the opponents in front of her simply couldn't withstand a single attack from her side. After many years of research, the Yin Yang Hall's 5 elements great suppression formation wasn't just for show. It could completely maintain the suppression of the 5 elements while launching an attack on the opponent. What appeared in front of everyone was absolutely overwhelming. However, it was also at this moment that Ji Dong made a puzzling movement. His right hand moved, grabbing Qin Sichuan's left hand next to him, and they stood at the edge of the field. Right now, they were like a pair of lovers, holding each other's hands in an extremely natural manner. Ji Dong could clearly feel Qin Sichuan's hand tremble slightly. The next moment, she already tightly grasped his hand, and their souls also instantly fused into one. Ji Dong's eyes had already clearly turned silver. Sitting in the center of the rostrum, Ji Zhangxin's heart skipped a beat, and he exchanged glances with his wife next to him. Both of them could see the astonishment in each other's eyes. Among everyone present, only the 2 of them, as supremes, could sense how terrifying the spiritual power released by Ji Dong was at this moment. Previously, when Ji Dong had arrived at the Demon Masters Guild, his spiritual power had once clashed with Ji Zhangxin and his wife. Ji Zhangxin had already felt that this great-grandson's spiritual power was even more terrifying than his own. But at that time, although Ji Dong's spiritual power was strong, it was still within the realm that Ji Zhangxin could feel, and could not compare to the combined spiritual power of his wife and wife. However, at this moment, the feeling that Ji Dong gave them was already on a completely different level. When he held Chen Sichuan's hand, their auras instantly fused into one. Even Ji Zhangxin immediately felt a suffocating pressure. Ever since he entered the Nine Crowns realm and became a Supremes, this was the second time Ji Zhangxin felt such a huge pressure that he could not control or resist, and the first time was when he was facing the realm of infinite lightning calamity. Admittedly, the spiritual pressure released by the combination of Ji Dong and Chen Sichuan was not comparable to the realm of infinite lightning calamity, but it was definitely not a realm that a Supremes could reach. At this moment, Ji Zhangxin thought that he understood. In his opinion, the only way for Ji Dong to defeat the Yin-Yang Hall with these low-level students was to use his powerful spiritual power to directly suppress the students of the Yin-Yang Hall, making them unable to resist. The outcome of this battle would naturally be decided. The three big fangs of the Yin-Yang Hall would definitely not be able to stop his terrifying spiritual fusion. However, what was the point of doing this? Was it just to fight against the Heavenly Deity Academy? The Dean of the Heavenly Deity Academy, Ji Mingxian, also felt that something was wrong. Even though he hadn't reached the Supreme's level and couldn't clearly sense the spiritual power of Ji Dong's realm, he could still vaguely sense that Ji Dong was different now. That kind of special temperament already surpassed the scope of his imagination. Suddenly, Ji Zhangxin's gaze froze, because he clearly felt that Ji Dong didn't release his extremely powerful spiritual power, but instead restrained it, enveloping his students like silk. Spiritual power could only suppress the opponent. What use was it to his own people? Increase fighting spirit? In a situation where there was such a great disparity in strength, what use was there in increasing fighting spirit? In the next moment, Ji Dong gave his answer. He shouted, "The 5 elements revolve, the cycle of mutual generation." The 30 Blazing Academy students formed 6 small formations that quickly spun. Each student's footwork seemed to be the same, and their movements were strangely fast. In this instant, it was as if all the students' movements had become swift. Their vision blurred, and everyone on the platform seemed to see 6 rings of light appear on the field. Chapter 388. That's right, 6 halos. 6 halos made up of 5 different colors. Every student was doing the simplest thing. A moment ago, Ji Dong's spiritual force had already penetrated their minds. Everyone could directly and clearly feel Ji Dong's orders. They could already sense the slightest change in the entire field. Ji Dong's spiritual force had already become their eyes in that instant. Their movements were so uniform as they moved. Under Ji Dong's command, they completely fused into one. Wood gave birth to fire, fire gave birth to earth, earth gave birth to metal, metal gave birth to water, and water gave birth to wood. The cycle of the 5 elements was completed in an instant, resting on the left arm of the person in front of them. That was the origin of the 6 halos. The dazzling radiance and the magic power that substantially increased with each cycle instantly reversed the situation. The feeling of being completely suppressed actually disappeared in a few breaths. Standing on the other side, Leng Yu was startled. She suddenly felt that she wasn't facing 30 people, but 6. 6 flawless people, each of them possessing either the yin or yang attribute. The 5 element suppression they'd released was actually useless, unable to suppress these opponents whose magic power was 10 ranks lower than theirs. What's going on? What formation is this? The same 2 questions appeared in practically everyone's mind. Huang Lixin was in charge of the Yin-Yang Hall's side. Seeing the other side change formations, he was also startled and hurriedly shouted, "Attack, what are you waiting for?" The 30 students of the Yin-Yang Hall moved. 3 of the 5 elements formations moved at the same time. The two on the left and right were led by Zhu Gui and Bissot respectively. They quickly spread out to the sides, forming a semicircle around the Lung Yu 5 elements formation in the center. Every student of the Yinyang Hall hurriedly gathered their magic power. They'd already lost count of how many times they'd practiced team battles. In this kind of situation, what they had to do was to output their magic power. Even though they couldn't achieve a 10-element combination skill, using the same attribute of yin and yang wasn't a problem. Each great formation shot out 5 rays of light at the same time. Altogether 15 yin and yang dual-element combination skill attacks shot straight at one of Blazing Academy's 6 5-elements mutual generation cycle formations. It was better to break the enemy in one spot than to attack 10,000. Under the circumstances of the yin and yang dual-element combination skill, these 15 attacks were extremely incisive. 15 beams of mixed colors appeared in the air, creating 15 ripples in the air. The immense pressure produced by the output of magic power even caused ripples in the sky above the entire field. Silver light flickered in Ji Dong's eyes. The instant the other side launched their attack, Blazing Academy's 5 elements rotation had already completed. The 6 teams stepped on mistaken shadow, and with a spin, the earth element students were already in front of them. The next moment, 3 yellow and 3 gray, 6 streaks of deep radiance shot out like lightning. Their goal wasn't to attack, but to defend. After the 3 yellows and 3 grays fused, they collided with one another. A yellow and gray barrier with a diameter of 10 meters suddenly appeared in front of the students in the group that was attacked. In the next moment, 15 beams of rainbow light had already arrived, bombarding the barrier almost at the same time. Ji Mingxian smiled from the platform. This attack was already enough to decide the outcome. The difference in magic power was so great, both sides had magic armor, and the Yinyang Hall students had even used multiple dual-element combination skills, absolutely not going easy on them. How could these Blazing Academy students block it? Even if they weren't all heavily injured, they would definitely lose the ability to fight. But just a second later, Ji Mingxuan's smile froze on her face. Everyone on the platform, including the 2 supremes, Ji Changxin and Shangguan Yinkong, stood up practically at the same time. A violent explosion resounded in the middle of the field. The center of the field was filled with chaotic flows of magic power of all attributes. Intense magic fluctuations soared into the sky, and after the scattering shock waves were quickly weakened, they were blocked by the Diamond Legion's warriors with their bodies. Ji Mingxian wasn't the only one with the same idea. However, the battle still wasn't over. The 15 yin and yang dual-element combination skills fiercely collided with the 6 defenses that seemed to have only been put up by 6 Blazing Academy students, and an astonishing change occurred. 15 circles of ripples spread from the grayish-yellow dual-colored light shield at the same time. The grayish-yellow light shield flickered and trembled violently as though it would shatter at any moment. However, when the 15 circles of ripples dissipated and the mana turbulence dissipated in the air, there was still a thin layer of the dual-colored light shield left. Blocked? They actually blocked it? How is this possible? How did they do it? Ji Zhangxin stood up and said this almost subconsciously. However, no one on the rostrum could answer his question. The Wizard Guild's President Hilo and Vice President Wofu were already staring with wide eyes. They had already seen a miracle at this moment. They knew that today's trip definitely wasn't in vain. They had already witnessed a miracle. To them, it was already a victory for these 30 Blazing Academy students to rely on their own magic power to block this attack. There was such a great disparity in magic power between both sides. Even if they had used all their strength to block this attack, it was still enough to prove that the formation they were using was far more effective than Blazing Academy's 5 elements great formation. It actually blocked multiple dual-element combination skills. Who could have imagined it? In fact, if it wasn't for Ji Dong's control, this attack shouldn't have been blocked, at least not completely blocked. However, Ji Dong's soul force control was a heaven-defying existence in itself. He perfectly fused those 6 streams of magic together, and even reached the same point at the same time. Absolutely don't look down on this minute sequence. Even if there was only a slight difference in speed during the fusion, the resulting defensive effect would be different. It could be said that Ji Dong had used all the magic of these 30 students in the most perfect way. Relying on his soul force fused with Chen Sichuan's, commanding these 30 students wasn't a problem at all. After blocking the opponent's attack, Ji Dong also heaved a sigh of relief. Blocking this time meant blocking this battle. 5 elements rotation, scorching sun devour. Ji Dong's shout and his soul command were in place practically at the same time. The defense was complete, without the slightest pause. The 6 groups of students took a step forward. Among the 5 elements, fire was next to earth. Therefore, the 6 groups only needed to take a step, and the fire element students were already at the forefront of the formation. The magic of the 6 groups also switched from supporting the earth element to supporting the fire element. 6 fire element students, 3 men and 3 women, 3 yang and 3 yin, simultaneously punched out with their right fists. 3 red and 3 blue, 6 rays of light erupted in the air with dazzling radiance. These 6 rays of light instantly condensed into a 3-meter-wide giant fireball, bombarding straight in Ling Yu's direction. Everyone on the platform clenched their fists at the same time when this giant fireball appeared. In their minds, the same word appeared, so fast. After just completing that kind of powerful defense, they could actually launch another attack in the next moment without the slightest time to adjust. Almost everyone already understood what this meant, especially the Prince of Equality Ji Dong had specially invited, the Crown Prince Ji Yeshang, and the people from the Wizard Guild. What Ji Dong wanted to do wasn't a simple exchange with the Heavenly Deity Academy, and even more not to deliberately humiliate the Heavenly Deity Academy. Instead, he wanted to show everyone the power of this mystical formation. It was precisely because these Blazing Academy students were generally weak that this formation could be even more marvelous. Seeing such a giant fireball head-on, Ling Yu's pretty face immediately changed color. Absolutely not a match. This was the first thought in her mind. Under the suffocating pressure, she reacted immediately. Everyone disperse, fight for yourselves. The 30 Yin-Yang Hall students scattered like lightning, no longer able to maintain their previous 5 elements great formation. They quickly dispersed, but they didn't panic. In the blink of an eye, they had already expanded into a giant circular formation, enveloping the 30 Blazing Academy students in the distance. But that giant fireball locked onto Ling Yu, suddenly accelerating after her. Just as Ling Yu's expression changed from shock, and at the same time the 10th Water Sect's director Elder Ling on the platform shouted in shock, this fireball suddenly stopped, then abruptly rose, directly reaching 100 meters in the air and exploding with a loud rumble. Strong fire elements blossomed in the air, and that terrifying explosive force brought a rain of fire falling from the sky. The slightly stronger wizard masters could feel how frightening this fireball's explosive power was. It was enough to compare to an all-out attack from an 8-crown wizard. Purely in terms of power, it was already at the level of a top-level surekill skill. Only 32 and 3-crown students joining hands could launch such an attack. Who would believe it if it was told? According to normal understanding, an 8-crown wizard master facing 102 and 3-crown wizards would be like a tiger in a flock of sheep. But looking at it now, this wasn't the case at all. These Blazing Academy students had already completely broken this convention. Ji Dong's voice reached everyone's ears. Without my command, this fireball can't lock onto the opponent and can only carry out a directional attack. Therefore, I won't be able to complete this attack. Ling Yu's little face was deathly pale from fright. Of course she knew that if that attack had landed on her just now, even if she didn't die, she would still be seriously injured. Both sides had agreed that their respective teachers could command them, So even if Ji Dong completed this attack, Heavenly STEM Academy's side wouldn't be able to say anything. Everyone, attack as you wish. Huang Lisin still issued the order in his shock. After all, this was Heavenly STEM Academy, and the ones he commanded were even more so Heavenly STEM Academy's most outstanding students. Even though Ling Yu was young, she absolutely relied on her strength to become Yin Yang Hall's chief disciple. This could be seen from the fact that she could see the flaw of Blazing Academy's 5 elements mutual generation circulation formation with a glance. After the 30 Yin Yang Hall students separated, they immediately launched their own attack. All of them were long-range attacks, attacking different targets from different directions. All kinds of dazzling lights streaked across the sky, converging and shooting. Without a doubt, this was the best way to deal with Blazing Academy's mystical formation. Unfortunately, the one controlling Blazing Academy's 6 groups was Ji Dong. At this moment, what Ji Dong displayed to everyone was the terrifying attack and defense speed of the 5 elements mutual generation circulation formation. Without needing to return, without needing to adjust, the Blazing Academy students used mistaken shadow doppelganger, and the 6 circular formations instantly scattered, no longer coming together, each doing their own thing. Like a 6-petal plum blossom, each formation rushing in a different direction. At the same time, the students' feet didn't stop, constantly moving at high speed. Their right hands, which were outside, would always be raised at the most appropriate time under Ji Dong's control. One attack after another tore through the air, and explosions rang out one after another. Even if the Yin Yang Hall students were using killing moves, they were still helpless against the enormous magic power of the 5 elements mutual generation circulation formation. It was precisely because of this that an inconceivable scene appeared. Blazing Academy's 6 formations quickly moved around the field. When each attack reached them, it would always be blocked by the most appropriate attribute of magic power. Even though their attacks wouldn't lock onto their opponents, the Yin Yang Hall students still couldn't block them head-on. As a result, under the rampage of the 6 formations, the Yin Yang Hall students were actually driven around the field like headless flies. They could only rely on their own outstanding abilities to block high and block low, dodging the attacks of the 5 elements mutual generation circulation formation as much as possible, but unable to block them head-on. The 6th rank crystal cores Ji Dong gave to each student also started to take effect, supporting them with an unending stream of magic power. Even though they only had 2 or 3 crowns of magic power, they were able to drive away opponents far stronger than them. The silver light gradually faded from Ji Dong's eyes. He already didn't need to command the Blazing Academy student. The true meaning of this exchange had already been manifested. Without any fear, in a state of extreme excitement, the Blazing Academy students who were performing beyond their level already had no chance of losing. That's right, a formation wasn't nimble enough compared to an individual, but with the addition of Ji Dong's doppelganger erroneous shadow steps as well as that freakish attack speed, the disadvantage of not being nimble enough was made up for as much as possible. After all, the Yin Yang Hall students couldn't be considered true experts, and they didn't have an absolutely tyrannical chief disciple like the Thunder Emperor Fury back then. How could they possibly break Ji Dong's mutual generation circulation formation? Even Ji Mingxian couldn't be bothered to be angry at this time. Those who could sit on the rostrum were all intelligent people, who wouldn't understand the meaning of this formation in front of them. This was no longer something that could be explained by the word miracle. It was more appropriate to use the word revolution. This magical array had brought about a revolution in the entire world of magicians. If even a 2 or 3 crowns magician could accomplish this, then what about a higher-level magician? Chapter 389. The competition was still going on, but when everyone returned to their seats on the platform, no one cared about the outcome of the competition. Their gazes were all focused on Ji Dong, and almost everyone's eyes were burning with passion. What did Ji Dong bring? It was a revolution that could affect the entire world of magicians. Right now, on the field, the competition between the two sides had already reached its climax. Along with the gradual weakening of their magic power and the loss of Ji Dong's perfect mental strength, the Blazing Academy students began to close their formation. The 6 groups of students gathered together, changing from main attack to main defense. They slowly adjusted their magic power, gradually recovering. Even though the Enyang Hall students were able to stand firm, it was still impossible for them to break through the defense of the Blazing Academy students. The scene immediately fell into a deadlock. The Enyang Hall's foundation was deep after all. Without Ji Dong's full support, it would be extremely difficult for the Blazing Academy side to obtain the final victory. After all, their magic power reserves were far from enough. Unless they killed them at the beginning when their magic power was at its peak, they would still lose if the Enyang Hall students were given time to recover. However, this didn't matter anymore. No one cared about the outcome of the competition anymore. Standing there, the white-haired, white-clothed Ji Dong was the focus of everyone's attention. The most excited were the bright radiance and divine apostles. Because in their hearts they all thought, if the same formation was used by them who possessed extreme magic power, what kind of scene would it be? All right, you can stop. Celestial Dipper Majesty Ji Zhangxin's voice rang out, and the students on both sides almost subconsciously stopped. No one would question this supreme expert's overstepping his authority. With his status, who would say anything? Ling Yu looked gloomily at Ji Dong's side. Even though she knew that Ji Dong had already told the Blazing Academy students to go easy on them, she still couldn't accept it. They were clearly much stronger than the other side, but they were still in a passive position. This was the first time this genius girl had encountered such a situation. In everyone's eyes, even though the outcome of the competition hadn't been decided yet, the Heavenly STEM Academy had already lost. There was such a clear disparity in magic power, but the final result was that they were completely suppressed. If not for Ji Zhangxin and Shangguan Yinkong, as the Wizard Guild's chairman, Hilo, might have already rushed down to find Ji Dong. The Blazing Academy students orderly retreated to Ji Dong's side, tears in their eyes. They actually had the strength to compete with the Enyang Hall. To them, this was both real and illusory. 3 months ago, who would have thought that the scene before their eyes would happen? Everything teacher Ji Dong had said had become reality. At this very moment, in their eyes, Ji Dong was simply a godlike existence. Ji Dong's expression didn't change in the slightest under everyone's gazes. He had long since anticipated all of this, and this was also his biggest goal in this trip to Central Plains City. Loosening his grip on Qin Sixuan's hand, he let her smooth and delicate hand slip from his palm. Step by step, he walked towards the center of the field. However, Ji Dong's gaze wasn't on the rostrum, but rather on the Thunder Emperor. The first exchange had already concluded. Next would be his battle with Fury. Ji Dong only had one goal in proposing this exchange, and that was to awaken his senior brother's fighting spirit. He had also been looking forward to this battle for a long time. Back then, when he had just arrived at the Heavenly STEM Academy, his senior brother had been his benchmark. For a very long time, the Thunder Emperor's strength wasn't just at the level of an idol to others, it was also the same for Ji Dong. Now, he finally had the chance to fight his senior brother on equal footing. There was no need to say anything. They could already communicate with each other through their eyes. Fury took a big step forward and walked out from the crowd. His majestic body seemed to have stretched out at this moment. An incomparably sharp aura instantly erupted from him. The spectators, who had been shocked by the Blazing Academy students' astonishing performance, woke up from this fierce aura. Only then did they realize that the battle they were looking forward to even more, the battle between the Tyrant and the Thunder Emperor, was about to begin. The previous team battle was already too splendid for them, so much so that they even forgot that there was still a second match. The Thunder Emperor will win. It was unknown which Heavenly STEM Academy student shouted first, but immediately after, similar voices rose and fell in succession. After a brief rise, the sound waves shot straight into the sky. The Inyang Hall hadn't won, but they still had the Thunder Emperor. One of the symbols of the Heavenly STEM Academy was the Thunder Emperor. Fury and Ji Dong didn't seem to hear the shouts around them. At this moment, they only had eyes for each other. The two of them walked towards each other at practically the same time, until they were face to face. Ji Dong raised his right hand and held it in front of Fury, saying, "Come back, senior brother." Fury gazed deeply at him, and a faint smile began to appear on his resolute face. Two dazzling lights instantly erupted from his eyes, and suddenly, his right hand had already tightly grasped Ji Dong's. He said, "Junior brother, I won't be lenient." A loud explosion erupted from their intersecting right palms. In the next moment, Ji Dong and Fury had already separated in an instant, each flying 10 meters away amidst the intense magical shock. It was also at this moment that an incomparably tyrannical aura suddenly rose. The tyrant and the Thunder Emperor erupted at the same time. On the rostrum, Ji Zhangxin pulled Shangguan Yinkong's hand and stood up. Dense Ultimate Earth magical power and Ultimate Earth magical power blossomed at the same time, and a layer of bright yellow light soared into the sky, spreading out and turning into a huge light barrier that enveloped the field. The fact that the two Supreme Being experts had set up a defensive barrier at the same time showed how much they valued the two young men in front of them. Ji Dong and Fury stared at each other, neither of them wanting to make the first move. Fury's eyes had already turned bluish-purple, and even the short hair on his head that stood up like steel needles had turned the same color. A bluish-purple light could be faintly seen flickering between his brows, and a violent aura continuously exploded from his body. In the next moment, a bluish-purple armor had already appeared, and in the next moment, Fury's entire body was covered by it. He, who was already tall and burly, immediately looked like the thunder god that had descended to the mortal world. Bolts of lightning that were as thick as an arm surged and surged around his body, and a blinding purple light that carried a tyrannical elemental suppression surged towards Hyoheim in an earth-shattering manner. If not for the existence of the earth elemental defensive barrier set up by the two Supreme Being experts, just the elemental suppression released by the Thunder Monarch would have been unbearable for many people present. Ji Dong, who was standing opposite Fury, had his white hair fluttering behind his head under the impact of the violent Yang Thunder Mana. However, it was also at this moment that everyone could clearly see that his eyes had already turned silvery white. Unlike Fury's instantaneous eruption and the armor that covered his body, Ji Dong's entire body seemed to have an additional layer of white light. This white light moved slightly, and no matter how tyrannical the aura that was pouncing towards him was, it was dispelled by this slight fluctuation. Immediately after, with a tearing sound, a pair of huge white wings had already spread out from his back. It was the dragon snake transformation of Feng Wu. Immediately after, a dark red armor appeared on his body, as if the armor itself was a part of his body. The moment the dark red armor, the ferocious spikes, and the ferocious mask completely covered Ji Dong's body, an incomparably arrogant and ruthless aura exploded from his body. Yes, the saintly ruler of Godfire armor had already recovered. After being nourished by the chaotic flames, the saintly ruler of Godfire armor had reformed. In particular, after Ji Dong had fused the medallion that Zhou Xiaoxiao had given him into the armor, it seemed to have ignited the armor's spirituality. Now, the quality of the saintly ruler of Godfire armor seemed to have increased once again. Although it was still not at the level of a god artifact, Ji Dong could clearly feel that his power had increased drastically after wearing it. The chaotic force within him had also become more complete, as if there was a layer of chaotic force covering the saintly ruler of Godfire armor. The Thunder Monarch and Tyrant's yin-yang crowns appeared above their heads at almost the same time. Fury's yang lightning crown was completely a mysterious purple. On the purple crown, 7 crowns and 4 stars appeared clearly in front of Ji Dong's eyes. Level 78, Senior Brother's mana, has already broken through to level 78? A sliver of surprise flashed across Ji Dong's eyes. However, the surprise he brought to Fury was evidently even greater than what Fury had brought to him. Both of them had 7 crowns. The black and white ultimate dual fire yin-yang crown appeared brazenly, and Ji Dong's magic had already reached rank 72 appeared in front of Fury's eyes. Rank 72. Junior had actually also broken through 7 crowns. Streaks of dense lightning flashed continuously in a 10-meter radius around Fury. Meanwhile, on Ji Dong's side, he slowly spread his arms apart. Black and gold flames rose silently, causing the surroundings of his saintly ruler of Godfire armor to emit a strange and distorted light. Almost at the same time, Ji Dong, Fury, Tyrant, and the Thunder Monarch clenched their fists tightly. A strange scene appeared. The lightning around Fury and the ultimate dual fire on both sides of Ji Dong's body were completely withdrawn in an instant. In the next moment, their bodies collided with each other like 2 cannonballs. Their right fists were magnified in each other's eyes at the same time. This was the most direct way to fight against each other. There wasn't any magical radiance, and it seemed to be the most direct collision of physical strength. However, the magicians who were at least 8 crowns knew what this kind of battle meant. Compared to the release of magical power, there was no doubt that this kind of battle was much more dangerous. That was to completely compress the magical power within the body, and only after the 2 sides collided would it be completely released. This was a battle that belonged to the level of supreme expert. Who would have thought that Ji Dong and Fury would simultaneously choose this kind of confrontation? The right fists that were covered in purplish-blue armor and the right fists that were covered in dark red armor collided almost at the same time. In that instant, Ji Dong and Fury's eyes exploded with a piercing crystal light that had never been seen before. Even through the masks and armors, the spectators could feel the tyrannical power that they had just unleashed. In the middle of the field, Ji Dong and Fury's bodies seemed to have been completely distorted. After a short moment of hallucination, there was a violent roar. Fortunately, there were 2 Earth Supreme's magical shields, so the sound was not that obvious. They were both right fists, but when the 2 of them collided head-on, it was immediately clear who was stronger. Ji Dong's body was pushed back uncontrollably. The Divine Fire Saint King armor on his right fist, as well as the armor on his entire right forearm, started to shatter inch by inch, turning into pieces that flew in the air. He was also pushed back nearly 10 meters in this collision before he could barely stabilize himself. If one observed closely, or if one had sufficient vision, they would be able to see that Ji Dong's body maintained a strange frequency as he was pushed back. In terms of the burst of magical power, the lightning element was undoubtedly superior to the fire element. Fury's magical power was also 6 levels higher than Ji Dong's, and he had the amplification from the Hell Thunder Divine Axe, which was why he had the upper hand in this attack. Under normal circumstances, the Thunder Monarch would definitely chase after his opponent without holding back after sending him flying with a single punch. He wouldn't give his opponent any chance at all. However, Fury didn't move at this moment. The blinding purplish-blue light that had disappeared earlier appeared on his body once again, and quickly gathered on his right forearm. "Hey!" Fury shouted, and there was another explosion. This time, it came from his right forearm, but the strange thing was that it wasn't his ultimate yang lightning magical power that came from it, but an intense golden light. Wasn't that Ji Dong's ultimate yang fire? This was the reason why Fury didn't chase after him. Although Ji Dong was at a disadvantage in a head-on clash, Fury didn't have it easy either. Ji Dong's punch contained the power of the deity slaying strike, and it forcefully sent his extremely condensed ultimate yang fire into Fury's body before it exploded. Sensing that something was wrong, Fury stopped immediately and used all his strength to expel the ultimate yang fire from his body. Even so, he couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. Fury's cultivation was extraordinary. Although he had been dispirited for more than half a year, he was still the Thunder Monarch after all. He had been the top student of the Inyang school for so many years, so he had an extremely strong ability to judge magical technique. He was very clear that if the person who faced Ji Dong was just an ordinary level 78 Demon Master, he would have been at a disadvantage from that attack. There was no way he could expel the deity's slaying strike from Ji Dong. To be more precise, as long as the person's magical power wasn't enough to suppress Ji Dong, they would definitely be at a disadvantage if they were hit by the deity's slaying strike head-on. Fortunately, he had put on the Thunder Divine armor that was derived from the Thunder Divine axe, which greatly weakened the deity's slaying strike when it entered his body. This was the reason why he suffered much less damage, and he used the ultimate Yang lightning to expel the deity's slaying strike from his body. Chapter 390. Ji Dong and his evolved deicide strike were no longer the same as before. Fury's face turned serious. He understood that his junior brother had the ability to fight against him. Senior brother, what a strong demonic power! Ji Dong couldn't continue attacking either. Fury's punch wasn't easy for him either. The last time he saw Fury, he taught his senior brother how to use the deicide strike. Even though Fury could only use the first stage of the deicide strike, his extreme Yang lightning demonic power was too overbearing. The terrifying explosive power made Ji Dong's entire right arm numb. Their seemingly simple attack just now was actually no less than a collision at the level of a sure kill skill. Fury didn't suffer because of the Hell Thunder Godly Axe. After killing the three-legged golden bird, Ji Dong had a new understanding of the deicide strike. Plus, his cultivation had increased to the 7th stage. His deicide strike was now at the 3rd stage. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to imbue the power of the deicide strike into a divine armor. Ji Dong firmly believed that if he could one day train the deicide strike to its peak, then even if he met the killing god Xiuruojin again, he would be able to destroy his opponent with one hit. As his understanding deepened, the deicide strike had become Ji Dong's greatest trump card. A ripple-like white light lit up on Ji Dong's broken right forearm. The milky white light looked very magical, and the pieces of armor that were originally scattered in the air seemed to feel the call of the white light. Like rivers flowing into the sea, they returned to their original positions, like a perfect jigsaw puzzle. Under the milky white light, the divine flame Saint King armor actually returned to its original state, as if it hadn't been damaged at all. Fury's pupils shrank. The armor can regenerate and repair itself? Junior brother, your Godfire Saint King armor has evolved to a divine item? Regenerating and repairing was a special ability of divine items. Just like how Chen Sichuan had used the Armor of Eternity to help Ji Dong block the three-legged golden bird's attack, it was damaged but could regenerate itself. Seeing that Ji Dong's Godfire Saint King armor had this ability, how could Fury not be shocked? Ji Dong shook his head. Not yet. It just has the ability to repair itself. As he spoke, Ji Dong's body moved again. He pounced forward like lightning, but this time, his body was almost parallel to the ground. His speed was at least twice as fast as before. His saintly ruler of Godfire armor had indeed gained the ability to repair itself after being destroyed by the three-legged golden crow. However, this kind of repair had to be built upon Ji Dong's fusion divine arts and the flames of chaos. Only by gradually understanding how to use the flames of chaos could he prevent his saintly ruler of Godfire armor from completely shattering. Facing Ji Dong's charge, Fury shouted, "Good move!" The mana of the two of them converged at the same time, once again forming a completely condensed appearance. Terrifying mana fluctuations surged in the air, but this time, it was no longer a direct collision. Facing Ji Dong's high-speed advance, Fury's body shot up. His right leg lifted up like lightning and slammed down. It was like a giant axe, chopping towards Ji Dong's head. But at this moment, Ji Dong changed his move. His body flashed to the left as if he was teleporting, moving a meter horizontally, just in time to avoid Fury's heavy kick. Immediately after, his body bounced up diagonally, his wings retracted in an instant to reduce the resistance of his body in the air. His right hand spread out and went straight for Fury's throat. Although Fury had the defense of a divine armor, Ji Dong's deicide strike was too strong. He didn't dare to let Ji Dong come into close contact with his vitals. He had learned the deicide strike before, so he naturally knew the weakness of the deicide strike. If he didn't come into contact with the opponent's body, he wouldn't be able to unleash its effect. Ji Dong's lightning-fast speed made the eyebrows of most of the people on the rostrum twitch. They were all wondering if they would be able to block this attack if it were them. Ji Mingxuan's expression became even uglier. The Thunder Emperor Fury had already given him a headache. Now there was another tyrant, Ji Dong, whose cultivation wasn't any weaker than Fury's. Not only that, but he also had an even greater enmity towards him. Furthermore, he had brought such a mystical spell formation. Who knew how long the Heavenly STEM Academy's reputation as the #1 academy in the world could last? Fury wasn't like them. Facing Ji Dong's lightning-fast movements, he wasn't surprised. The Flying Serpent Flash was Ji Dong's most proficient skill. It was also the main support when he used a large number of killer moves. How could he not know about it since he was so familiar with Ji Dong? Not everyone could learn the Flying Serpent Flash. One had to first learn the Flying Serpent Power Transformation technique. Instantaneous acceleration in the air completely relied on the flexibility and explosive power of the body's bones and muscles. It didn't even have much to do with mana. During the calamity of the Holy Evil Island, Ji Dong had relied on the Flying Serpent Power Transformation technique's 5 consecutive flashes to break through the encirclement and be the first to reach the Darkness Altar. Seeing Ji Dong suddenly change directions and appear beside him, Fury didn't panic at all. He had already reacted when Ji Dong dodged his heavy kick. A layer of dense purple light instantly erupted. Although there was clearly no attack power, it was so tyrannical that it was irresistible. It forcefully pushed Ji Dong's body back by 3 feet, making it impossible for him to continue using the Flying Serpent Flash. In the next moment, Fury's fists were already clenched together as he blasted towards Ji Dong's head. An extremely powerful suction force was produced from Fury's body, pulling Ji Dong's body, making it impossible for him to dodge. His entire body had already been completely locked down by Fury. Helpless, Ji Dong could only clash head-on. But this time, one seemed to be accumulating power, while the other was hastily fighting. Compared to before, the situation had instantly changed. Fortunately, Ji Dong didn't just have the pure yang fire attribute. He also had the most direct way to amplify it, the ultimate dual flames. His hands folded at the same time as Fury. At this moment, Ji Dong had no choice but to give up on his deity extermination strike. The ultimate yang fire and ultimate yin fire instantly fused together. One could vaguely see a black and white yin-yang fish appear behind him, and only then did he receive Fury's attack. Fury's smash from the sky was extremely powerful. Ji Dong's fists met it head-on, relying on the ability of the yin-yang dual flames. A boom rang out once again. However, this time, Ji Dong was at a greater disadvantage than before. His entire body had already been sent flying by Fury, and only when he collided with the defensive barrier set up by the 2 Earth Supremes did his body bounce back to the ground. This time, the Divine Fire Sage King armor on both his arms had actually been completely shattered, and there were even countless twisted lightning bolts surging around his entire body. The Heavenly STEM Academy students seemed to be cheering in unison, the feeling of defeat they felt earlier rapidly rising due to the Thunder Emperor's strength. It wasn't that Ji Dong's Sacred Fire Saint King armor was weak, but rather that Fury's attack was too tyrannical. Although he had only cultivated the deity extermination strike to the 1st level, and couldn't break into Ji Dong's body with his 3rd level, His incomparably tyrannical ultimate Yang Lightning Devil exploded in an instant after being highly compressed. If it was an ordinary 8-crown demon master, they would have been heavily injured by this attack. Moreover, Fury had the amplification of the divine tool armor. His sudden tremor had also disrupted Ji Dong's rhythm, and he was immediately at a disadvantage under this attack. However, Ji Dong's actual situation wasn't as bad as it looked on the surface. With Feng Wu's dragon snake transformation and winged serpent power transformation, it wasn't an easy task to heavily injure him. However, this time, because he didn't have the deity extermination strike to block him, Fury wouldn't let go of this opportunity. Ji Dong's ultimate dual fire devil could only cause him to pause in the air for a moment. In the next moment, his imposing body covered in bluish-purple divine armor had already charged forward, charging straight towards Ji Dong, who was bouncing back down. At this moment, something strange happened. Fury suddenly felt an intense pressure appear in the depths of his soul, causing his originally thunderous charge to instantly slow down. He even felt a wave of dizziness. It was Ji Dong's soul suppression. In terms of the attribute of magic, Ji Dong was unable to suppress Fury, but in terms of the aspect of the soul, there was quite a large gap between them. However, this suppression could only last for a moment. The Lightning Emperor Fury's mind was firm, and after his soul suppression, his strength wasn't affected as much as an ordinary demon master's. Spreading his wings, he stabilized himself. With a flash of white light, the Godfire Saint King armor quickly recovered. At the same time, the ultimate Yang Lightning was also silently dissolved by Ji Dong. Different from how Fury had forced out his attack, Ji Dong's method of dissolving it was even more ingenious. He had used chaotic force to dissolve the ultimate Yang Lightning. In midair, Ji Dong's body shook, and he used mistaken shadow clone, splitting into 3 figures. Using the flying serpent flash once again, the 3 figures charged at Fury at the same time. Retreating was never Ji Dong's style of battle. Constantly attacking and defeating his opponent in the shortest amount of time was his only choice. "Come at me!" Fury roared. Just as Ji Dong's 3 figures were about to reach him, the irresistible, distorted light from before appeared once again. The Thunder Emperor was extremely experienced. After the first exchange, he knew that if he were to face Ji Dong head-on, he would definitely be the one to lose. Ji Dong's god-slaying strike was too overbearing. He definitely couldn't let Ji Dong get close to him. Thus, he used the secret technique from before once again. Just as Ji Dong was about to get close, he had already sent his 3 figures flying. The first time Ji Dong had been caught off guard, but this time, he felt it much more clearly. He realized that when the distorted feeling appeared around Fury, that irresistible force did not appear on Fury's body, but on himself. In other words, when the distortion appeared around Fury's body, it was not him who forced Ji Dong back, but Ji Dong himself who repelled him. What kind of power was this? In the midst of his shock, the 3 figures that Ji Dong had transformed into were forced back once again. Before he could react, the distorted light around Fury's body changed once again. The powerful repelling force from before turned into a sucking force, forcefully pulling his retreating body back. Just by advancing and retreating, Ji Dong's rhythm was completely disrupted. The feeling of having power but not being able to use it, coupled with the feeling of using the wrong force, made him feel extremely uncomfortable. The Hell Thunder Divine Axe silently appeared in Fury's hands. The glaring bluish-purple light instantly expanded to a length of 3 meters. With a horizontal swing of the battle axe, a bluish-purple light screen had already enveloped Ji Dong completely. Just like what Fury had said previously, he did not hold back in this battle at all. He wanted to win with all his might. This was the Thunder Emperor's true power. Even with Ji Dong's powerful explosive power, he would not be able to use it in front of the Thunder Emperor, nor would he be able to resist it. How powerful was this? Ji Dong could clearly feel that the overall strength of his eldest senior brother was already comparable to that of a refined martial artist expert. The layman watched the show, while the expert knew the ropes. Ji Dong's consecutive inexplicable mistakes and changes in the direction of his body had already attracted the attention of the experts on the rostrum. Of course, they would not cheer like the ordinary spectators, but they could not help but secretly gasp when they saw how powerful the Thunder Emperor was. Compared to the battle between the Magic Guild and the Magic Skills Guild a year ago, it was obvious that Fury's strength had risen to a whole new level. However, even though Fury had gone all out, it was impossible for him to truly injure Ji Dong. Hence, when he swung the Hell Thunder Divine Axe, it was aimed at the back of the axe instead of the blade that was aimed at Ji Dong. At the instant when he swung the Hell Thunder Divine Axe, even the two refined martial artists who had set up the defensive barrier had already thought that the battle was over. Fury had used a mysterious power to completely break Ji Dong's rhythm of attack and defense. It could be said that Ji Dong was about to lose before he could even unleash his full strength. However, they definitely did not think that Fury was using a trick. The outcome of such a situation on the battlefield was certain death. If the person was already dead, could you still say that the opponent was using a trick? As soon as the Hell Thunder Divine Axe was swung, the terrifying explosive power instantly produced a huge ball of lightning. It enveloped the three figures that Ji Dong had transformed and Fury himself, cutting off all of Ji Dong's paths of retreat. At this moment, Ji Dong had already understood that the repulsive and absorbing power that Fury had displayed earlier must have come from the Hell Thunder Divine Axe. Without a doubt, although his senior brother had been dispirited for close to a year, after returning from the calamity on the Holy Evil Island and experiencing the tremendous power of the myriad lightning calamity realm, he had finally gained complete control over the Hell Thunder God and was able to fully unleash the power of the Hell Thunder God. Possessing a Hell Thunder God did not mean that one was powerful. One must be able to unleash the power of the Hell Thunder God. That was the most terrifying thing. Without a doubt, Fury had already done that. Did Ji Dong still have a chance? Could he break free from Fury's terrifying power? Chapter 391. The terrifying lightning brought about by the Hell Thunder Divine Axe, in addition to the strange suction force released by Fury's body, caused Ji Dong to fall into a hopeless situation. The two clones that he created using the doppelganger shadow steps were crushed by the terrifying demonic power of the Hell Thunder Divine Axe almost instantly, and his real body was revealed. Since the start of the competition, Ji Dong and Fury had actually only clashed twice. Who would have thought that the competition between the two of them would reach such a climax so quickly, and it seemed like it was going to end soon. The students of the Heavenly STEM Academy were undoubtedly excited. Their idol Fury, the Thunder Emperor, was finally going to win. However, most of the people present, especially the Diamond Corps, were disappointed. Previously, they had clearly felt the domineering aura of their young master, Tyrant, who could kill anything in his way. However, now, he was actually restrained to this extent. This was definitely not what they wanted to see. Even Fury himself felt that he was going to win. Although he was filled with despair and deathly stillness for the past 6 months, this silence allowed him to calm down completely. Other than lingering in the pain of Yexion's death, the Hell Thunder God in his body would subtly merge with him every time he was drunk. After going through the baptism of the myriad lightning calamity, it could be said that Fury, the Thunder Emperor who possessed the ultimate Yang lightning attribute, had benefited the most. This was not something that could only be reflected in the demonic power level. The complete integration of the Hell Thunder Divine Axe was equivalent to gradually transforming his body into a divine weapon, and the power of the divine weapon was finally fully unleashed. The current him was a completely new Thunder Emperor, which was why he was able to gain the upper hand in the competition with Ji Dong and force Ji Dong into a dead end. The divine armor that the Hell Thunder God had transformed into possessed the magnetic ability of the extreme thunder magnetic force. It made use of the magnetic force produced by the human body to either repel or absorb. As such a situation occurred within the body, even demonic power could not resist it. It was the same for a supreme powerhouse. Fury was the controller of the magnetic ability of the extreme thunder magnetic force. Ji Dong had suffered a great loss under the magnetic ability of the extreme thunder magnetic force. However, did Ji Dong really lose just like that? If he lost to Fury so easily, then what was the point of today's competition? Since he dared to challenge his own senior brother, he naturally didn't have as simple a strength as he seemed on the surface. Just as the Hell Thunder Divine Axe was about to hit Ji Dong's body, Ji Dong's terrifying Yang lightning magical force erupted and formed a huge lightning ball to restrict him. First, it was Ji Dong's eyes that were hidden under the sinister mask. Despite the obstruction of the crystal, Fury was still able to see that Ji Dong's eyes had changed. Yes, Ji Dong's eyes had completely turned milky white at that moment. Following that, his saintly King Godfire armor had completely turned milky white as well. The violent ultimate dual flames from before had actually completely vanished. Fury could sense a gentle aura that was perfectly harmonious. A faint white stream of air erupted from Ji Dong's body, instantly forming a barrier around him. It was also at this moment that Fury's lightning element had completely come into contact with Ji Dong's body. A miraculous scene appeared. The extremely powerful Yang lightning magical force made contact with the milky white light from Ji Dong's body. However, there was no offensive power at all. Instead, it quickly melted into the air like snow, turning into a harmless stream of air that scattered in all directions. What shocked Fury even more was that he could no longer sense the magnetic force from Ji Dong's body. The effects of his extreme thunder magnetic force had naturally disappeared as well. At that moment, Ji Dong's right hand reached out and forcefully grabbed the back of the Hell Thunder Divine Axe. To the spectators, this scene was even more bizarre. The purple ball of light that had already appeared suddenly stopped emitting any lightning. In the next moment, a milky white halo had already covered every corner of the ball of light. The purplish blue had been completely replaced by milky white, and then it turned into a faint stream of air and disappeared without a trace. Ji Dong and Fury's bodies also leapt out at that moment. Ji Dong's armor had completely turned milky white. There was only one exception, and that was his right hand, which was completely covered in bright red. Buzz! A strange buzzing sound rang out. This sound did not come from between Ji Dong and Fury. Instead, it came from the ultimate dual earth defense barrier that enveloped the entire battlefield. This defense barrier that was set up by two honorable martial artists actually shook violently at that moment. An illusory light appeared, causing the spectators to be unable to see what was going on inside. They could only see two figures, one purple and one white, separating in an instant. Dense demonic light once again erupted from Tiangang Ji Zhangxin and Tiangang Shangguan Yinkong. The husband and wife looked at each other and saw the astonishment in each other's eyes. It must be known that both of them were honorable martial artists, and they were most proficient in defense and sneak attack. When the husband and wife joined forces and used the yin-yang dual earth defense barrier, even the siblings Yin Zhaoyang and Yin Zhaorong might not be able to break through it. However, at that moment, they clearly felt that the defense barrier that they had set up was almost forcefully shattered by an extremely powerful force in the middle of the violent undulations. If they had not replenished their demonic energy in time, they might not have been able to withstand that mysterious force. Ji Zhangxin took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Chaotic flames, battle of divine weapons." Ji Mingxuan's eyes were a little numb. Of course, he could see the situation clearly. Ji Zhangxin's words were completely correct. However, his heart was filled with pain at that moment. He had been teaching for his entire life, but he had never been able to nurture disciples as outstanding as the ones in front of him. These two young men were both Zhurong's students. In terms of cultivation, he was confident that he was definitely above Zhurong. However, in terms of students, he was far from being comparable to Zhurong. Regardless of whether it was the Thunder Emperor or Tyrant, their true battle prowess was no longer inferior to his. In the battlefield, the two figures instantly separated. Fury laughed and said, "Good. Junior, you're actually able to use the chaotic flames already. I never thought that you would be able to escape even with that." Although Ji Dong had almost been defeated by Fury, there was a faint smile on his face that was hidden under the mask. When he saw Fury's rough smile, he knew that his senior had returned. "Senior, what was the power that you used to absorb my body just now?" Ji Dong asked straightforwardly. Of course, only the two of them could hear their conversation. Fury naturally wouldn't hide anything. He said, "That's the Thunder Divine Axe's magnetic force of extreme thunder. I comprehended it after I was able to activate the Thunder Divine Axe to attach to my armor. The power of the Thunder Divine Axe has completely integrated with my extreme Yang Thunder. Little junior brother, although you've improved a lot, I'm afraid your chances are still not high." As he spoke, Fury slowly raised the Thunder Divine Axe in his hand. Suddenly, a dazzling bolt of lightning lit up on the blade of the axe. Following that, the bolt of lightning circled around the Thunder Divine Axe and moved rhythmically. It was not an ordinary bolt of lightning, but a milky white lightning bolt. At the core of the lightning bolt was a small white lightning ball. Although it did not seem eye-catching, Ji Dong's eyes narrowed when he saw it. He truly did not expect Fury's cultivation to have evolved to such a level. Not only had he fused with a divine weapon, but he had also comprehended the chaotic lightning through the fusion of the Thunder Divine Axe and the myriad lightning calamity realm. "Junior, your chaotic flames are stronger than my chaotic lightning. It's a pity that you have yet to fuse with the Fire God's sword. Or rather, your Fire God's sword is not in its complete form. Coupled with the difference in demonic energy, you are still no match for me even though you have the ultimate dual flames." Ji Dong smiled and took off his mask. He looked at the confident Fury and said, "Senior, you're back." Fury's eyes were filled with deep emotions. He said, "Thank you, Junior. You're right. Xin is dead, Flaming Bar is dead. We can't let their deaths be in vain. Even if we're going to follow them, we must first destroy those bastards who harmed them. Dark secrets, ultimate weapon Li Yonghao. How can I, Fury, be willing to fall into depravity if I don't kill you? Junior, do we still continue this competition?" Ji Dong nodded and said, "Let's decide the winner with one last strike. I really want to see how powerful the Hell of Thunder Divine Axe is after it's completely fused. Without enough pressure, how can I force myself to make another breakthrough?" As he spoke, he slowly raised his hands from his sides and finally clasped them above his head. His arms were straight, and the chaotic colors on his body disappeared at this moment, turning back to dark red. At the same time, the strange red color appeared on Ji Dong's hands again. Following that, a 4-foot-long, half-foot-wide blood-colored heavy sword appeared on Ji Dong's hands. As it appeared, an extremely terrifying killing intent instantly filled the air. The demonic red color seemed to come alive as it swayed on the sword. Ruthlessness, unwillingness, bloodlust, insanity, and various other emotions instantly filled the air. With it at the center, the light around Ji Dong's body completely distorted, while his hands also wore the twin lunisolar glove. His left hand flickered with intense black flames, while his right hand flickered with piercing golden flames. The two flames fused together and poured into the red sword. Yes, in order to truly contend against his senior brother, Ji Dong had released his Fire God sword. Only then would he have the power to fight against the Thunder Emperor. Of course, he wasn't doing this blindly. The threat of the god of massacre Shupness had yet to disappear, but the current Ji Dong wasn't afraid of his rampage. Shupness divine sense had been sealed in the fire god's sword. Although the speed at which it was merging with the divine sword was very slow, the current Ji-dong's spiritual force had increased, and he was able to barely suppress him with the help of the fire god's sword. Moreover, there was still Chen Sichuan outside the battlefield. This was also one of the important reasons why Ji-dong had ultimately decided to let Chen Sichuan join the Heavenly Stem Holy Disciples. The expressions of the two honorable sovereigns on the rostrum turned extremely solemn. They were the ones who had the most direct perception of the mana undulations in the field. Ji Zhangxin pulled Shangguan Yinkong's hand, and the two of them floated into the air at the same time. They didn't need to rely on any external force to fly into the air, and stopped right above the dual Earth barrier. The ultimate dual Earth barrier descended from the sky, and the barrier instantly expanded from 1 layer to 10 layers. It was completely reinforced, and the dense Earth attribute light blocked the vision of most people. All they could see were the 2 balls of red and purple light in the field. The 2 balls of red and purple light came into contact in the next moment. No one could see what was happening inside. However, when the 2 balls of light collided, the entire Central Plains city seemed to tremble violently. Ear-piercing sounds of friction and cracking rang out continuously from the Earth barrier. Everyone knew that if it wasn't for the protection of the 2 honorable sovereigns, the collision between the tyrant and the Thunder Emperor would have brought a disaster to the Heavenly Stem Academy. Of course, if there wasn't any protection, Ji-dong and Fury wouldn't have fought with their full strength. The ultimate dual Earth barrier gradually disappeared. Ji Zhangxin and Shangguan Yinkong descended from the sky, while Ji-dong and Fury stood at the center of the field. Their armors and weapons had all disappeared, and other than looking a little pale, it seemed as if nothing had happened. What was shocking was that there was a huge dragon beside each of them. The purple thunder heavenly dragon beside Fury still had a drowsy look on its face, as if it didn't know what had happened. When it saw the sacred evolution fire dragon crawling beside Ji-dong, it couldn't help but shiver. Mao Tai and Wuliangye fiercely glared at the purple thunder heavenly dragon. Thunder lowered its head like a coward and buried it in its chest. Its docile appearance didn't have the demeanor of a mad dragon that dominated the world. Thunder, how can you be so embarrassing? Fury angrily slapped his partner beside him. Thunder turned its head and looked at him with a little grievance. It seemed to be saying, although we both have ultimate magic, there are 2 of them, and I only have 1. How can we compete? Mao Tai and Wuliangye raised their heads proudly and looked at Hyoheim, as if they were taking credit for it. The clash between the fire god's sword and the hell thunder divine axe didn't decide the victor in the end. After all, it wasn't a battle of life and death. This battle ended in a draw between Ji-dong and Fury. Of course, it wasn't a battle of life and death, so they naturally couldn't see their full strength. The sacred evolution fire dragon and the purple thunder heavenly dragon didn't appear because of Ji-dong and Fury's summons. It was because of the collision between the divine weapons that caused the space to tear apart. The 2 divine dragons descended under such circumstances. When they saw each other, they naturally didn't have any intention of fighting. Ji-dong, what you brought to me and your great-grandmother wasn't surprise and miracle, but horror and miracles. Chapter 392. Ji Zhangxin praised his grandson without the slightest taboo. In his eyes, Ji-dong was already perfect to the point where he couldn't be any more perfect. In today's situation, it seemed that Blazing Academy hadn't won a single match. But in fact, everything Ji-dong had obtained was far more important than victory on the battlefield. At this moment, Chen Sichuan had already silently arrived at Ji-dong's side, taking the initiative to pull his right hand. Ji-dong's body stiffened slightly, but he didn't struggle free. He understood that Chen Sichuan coming to his side at this time absolutely wasn't to express intimacy with him in front of everyone, but purely out of concern. He also didn't know why he had such a certain thought, but he didn't doubt it in the slightest. Densimu magic poured into Ji-dong's body, nourishing it. In fact, The life core hanging around Ji Dong's neck was similarly releasing an enormous life aura. Even more important was that Chen Xishuan had once again completed her soul fusion with Ji Dong. That unreservedly exposed spiritual window in front of Ji Dong made his heart tremble once again. The enormous spiritual force after their fusion also completely suppressed Shupness's soul within the Death God sword, making him unable to seize the opportunity to stir up trouble. Ji Zhangxin glanced at Chen Xishuan with some astonishment, saying with a smile, "Ji Dong, who is this young lady? You still haven't introduced her to Ancestor Xian. You youngsters are truly extraordinary." Ji Dong said, "Ancestor Xian, she's called Chen Xishuan, my student at Blazing Academy. Her talents are extremely good. I'm prepared to recommend her to become a heavenly stem Imu holy disciple." Ji Zhangxin nodded, saying, "That's a pretty good idea, I support you." Without a doubt, a girl who could complete a soul fusion with Ji Dong and produce such enormous spiritual force would be of great help to Ji Dong. Ji Zhangxin of course saw the tenderness in Chen Xishuan's eyes. He even hoped that this girl with her face covered would be able to warm Ji Dong's heart, letting him completely walk out of the flaming bar's death. "Greetings, Your Majesty Big Dipper and Your Majesty Great Fortune." Chen Xishuan gracefully greeted the two Supreme Being experts. Ji Zhangxin smiled and said, Good. Little girl, you're not bad. You've broken through to 6 crowns at such a young age. No wonder Ji Dong chose you." At this moment, the crowd on the rostrum, as well as the heavenly stem hallowed disciples, walked over. It was only because of the presence of the two Supreme Beings that the others didn't say anything. Ji Dong and Fury looked at each other and smiled. Fury said, "Little brother, it seems like I'm no match for you." Ji Dong said, "Senior brother, I didn't beat you." Fury shook his head and said, "The advantage of your ultimate dual fire wasn't fully displayed. Did you think I would forget about the existence of the life-sustaining formation?" He could also use the life-sustaining formation, but Fury only had one type of magic, so he could only maintain 7 lightning dragons. On the other hand, Ji Dong had 2 types of magic. How could the Thunder Monarch forget about this? If it was a battle of life and death, Ji Dong had a higher chance of surviving than him. The president of the Magician Guild, Hilo, couldn't bear it anymore. He came forward and said, "My Deacon Elder, you've kept me in the dark for so long. After this matter is over, you have to come with me. And these students of yours, I'll give them special permission to join the Magician Guild. They don't need to be assessed, and they'll all be given the title of 4 stars. What do you think?" Hilo and Wofu had been looking at Ji Dong for a long time with blazing eyes. They didn't think too much about the battle between Ji Dong and Fury. However, the formation used by the Blazing Academy students had given them the greatest shock in their lives. They naturally understood how important this formation was. And today, Ji Dong naturally didn't invite them to boost his prestige. It was very obvious that it was related to this formation. Hilo had long been unable to restrain himself. Ji Dong smiled and said, "I must go to the Magician Guild, but you have to wait until I'm done with the matters here." Hilo hurriedly nodded and said, "No problem, we'll wait for you. When you're done, we'll go back to the Magician Guild together." This president was very astute, directly drawing Ji Dong into his circle. The Heavenly STEM Academy's board members looked at Ji Dong with equally blazing gazes, but none of them said anything. He was the vice dean of Blazing Academy, not the Yin Yang Hall back then. Who knew how many people were regretting now, but what use was regret? Just at this moment, Ji Dong's gaze suddenly turned to the back of the crowd, to the lonely Heavenly STEM Academy's dean, Ji Mingxian. He said, "Dean Ji Mingxian, can we talk?" Ji Mingxian stared blankly for a moment, her eyes revealing a trace of humiliation and anger. She thought to herself, "You've already achieved your goal. Don't tell me you still want to throw stones at someone who's down?" She said coldly, "What do you want to talk about?" Ji Dong smiled faintly. "This time we've come for an exchange. Naturally, it won't be as simple as a competition. Since it's an exchange, of course we have to discuss each other's experiences. I wonder if Dean Ji Mingxian is interested in our Blazing Academy's 5 elements cycle formation? Hearing what Ji Dong said, Ji Mingxian couldn't help staring blankly for a moment, then said, "So what if I'm interested? Could it be that Blazing Academy is willing to publicize this formation?" Anyone could see the miraculousness of Ji Dong's 5 elements cycle formation. This kind of formation clearly wasn't something that could be successfully researched in a day or two. This kind of result was already enough for Ji Dong to leave behind a thick ink in the history of the demon world. Relying on this formation, as long as it was given time, it wouldn't be difficult for Blazing Academy to surpass Heavenly STEM Academy. Ji Mingxian didn't believe that Ji Dong would publicize this kind of miraculous formation. In his opinion, Ji Dong was only thinking of ways to humiliate him. "Why can't I publicize it? This formation was researched by me. Not only do I want to publicize it, I also want to impart it to all the demon masters. I believe that everyone still deeply remembers the calamity of the Holy Evil Island. In the near future, we will all face the same enemy. Keeping something precious to oneself will only lead to mutual destruction. I created this formation in order to use it in the sacred war between light and darkness. Previously I said that relying on this formation, we can increase our victory by at least 20%. I believe that this statement wasn't exaggerated." Hearing what Ji Dong said, everyone was immediately shocked. There were so many people standing on the field, but at this moment it became completely silent. Everyone's gazes were focused on Ji Dong, almost 99% filled with disbelief. This time, Ji Mingxian couldn't say a single word. He looked at Ji Dong with a strange gaze. Huang Lisan said with a trembling voice to the side, "Dean Ji Dong, is what you said true? You are willing to publicize this formation to our Heavenly STEM Academy?" Ji Dong nodded. Under the gazes of tens of thousands of people, he was still calm and unruffled. The 5 elements cycle formation is used to make use of the 5 elements to allow low-level demon masters to display great power. If the demon masters of the 5 elements continent can have it, then the power of the entire continent's demon masters will be gathered. When we face the war of the dark 5 elements continent, we will have a stronger fighting strength. The reason I came here this time is because of this formation. Today I have invited my great ancestor, great-grandmother, Prince Equivalent, Prince Crown Prince, and the 2 leaders of the Demon Masters Guild for this purpose. I hope that as many demon masters can comprehend and learn this formation in the shortest time possible. Now that everyone is here, I have 3 conditions. Whoever can agree to my conditions, I will impart this formation to you. Ji Zhangxin opened his mouth. This celestial dipper sovereign looked at his great-grandson with a solemn expression. From a selfish point of view, he naturally hoped that this formation of Ji Dong's would only belong to Prince Equivalent's bloodline. However, he was very clear that everything Ji Dong said and did was for the sake of the 5 elements continent. Without light there would be no country. Without a country there would be no home. Without a country there would be no home. Without a doubt, this great-grandson of his had already far surpassed him in terms of mental state. He didn't care about personal interests but cherished himself. He was definitely worthy of the words for the country and the people. Under such circumstances, as a current expert, Ji Zhangxin had already made up his mind. No matter what, he would give his full support to his great-grandson. Ji Dong said, "First, all the magicians who learn the mutual generation and circulation formation of 5 elements must register with the Guild of Magic and join the Guild of Magic. The Guild of Magic will be in charge of supervision and command until the end of the war between the light and darkness continents. Those who quit halfway after learning the formation will have their abilities recovered by the Guild of Magic. Those who are serious will be killed without mercy." After listening to Ji Dong's first condition, Hilo and Wofer immediately beamed with joy. The Guild of Magic was the world's #1 guild, and also the only super guild. They themselves controlled a huge amount of magicians. With this condition from Jidong, it was equivalent to the Guild of Magic controlling the mutual generation and circulation formation of 5 elements. Why not? With this condition, the Guild of Magic's authority would definitely rise to another level. Jidong continued, second, after the Holy War ends, the Guild of Magic can't continue to control these magicians for any reason. Those who don't want to stay can leave the Guild of Magic. At the same time, the 5 empires will each send one person to be stationed in the Guild of Magic, and the Guild of Magic will also send 5 people to form a group of 10 elders. When it comes to the allocation of the magicians learning the formation, the group of elders will discuss it. Jidong proposed this second condition after careful consideration. If the magicians learning the formation were controlled by the 5 empires, it would undoubtedly spread out the power, causing the formation to be unable to fully unleash its power. However, with the Guild of Magic commanding them, it would cause the Guild of Magic to have too much power. Therefore, in Jidong's opinion, letting the 5 empires and the Guild of Magic control this group of magicians at the same time was the best choice. After this second condition was stated, everyone who was related to it fell into deep thought, quietly weighing the pros and cons in their hearts. Jidong continued, third, all the magicians learning the formation must participate in the holy war between light and darkness. I believe everyone knows what this formation means to the world of magicians. If it wasn't for the threat of the 5 elements continent, I wouldn't have made it public. Since it's for the sake of the holy war, those who learn it will naturally have to contribute to the holy war and resist the foreign enemies together. This is also the reason why I asked the Guild of Magic to register it. The Red Lotus heavenly fire on the Holy Evil Island can still last for more than 4 years. My condition may not be comprehensive enough. Then, please discuss with the other empires. If you can come up with a satisfactory condition, I can also impart the formation. There are still 2 months to the first anniversary of the Holy Evil Island's calamity. After 2 months, I will go to the Holy Evil Island to pay my respects to a friend, and then return to the Central Plains city. At that time, I hope you can give me an answer. If the empires haven't reached an agreement by then I can only impart the formation selectively. That's all I want to say. As soon as Jidong finished speaking, surprisingly, the first to respond was the Dean of the Heavenly STEM Academy, Ji Mingxian. The Heavenly STEM Academy agrees to these 3 conditions. Ji Mingxian had no other choice. He knew that if the Heavenly STEM Academy couldn't learn this formation, then it wouldn't take long for the title of the world's #1 academy to be handed over to others. Later, I will make a count among the students. Those who are afraid to participate in the Holy War will graduate in advance and leave the Heavenly STEM Academy. As for those who stay, the Heavenly STEM Academy will lead them to register with the Devil Academy. Ji Chongxin smiled. Brother Ji, you are decisive. As expected of the Dean of the Heavenly STEM Academy. As he spoke, his gaze had already turned to Ji Yunxing. How could Ji Yunxing not understand his grandfather's meaning? He nodded and said, His Highness the Crown Prince and I represent the Central Plains Empire and are willing to agree to these 3 conditions. However, we have a request. It could be said that the Central Plains Empire was the most beneficial to the 3 conditions of Jidong. Not to mention anything else, just the fact that the Devil Guild was located in the Central Plains city gave them an absolute advantage. Furthermore, the Equal Kings faction had a very good relationship with the Devil Guild. I feel that the Dean Jidong's earlier suggestion of having 10 elders in charge is slightly inappropriate. 10 people is an even number. What if there is a situation of 5 to 5? Therefore, we feel that there should be an additional elder. This way, there won't be any ambiguity in the number of 11 when making important decisions. Ji Yesheng continued, This 5 elements coexistence cycle formation was created by Dean Jidong. The 3 conditions were also raised by you. Furthermore, you are the holy king of a generation who is openly fighting against holy disciples. No matter how you look at it, this additional elder should be taken up by you. I believe that no one will object to this, right? It would be strange if anyone had an objection. Having an objection would mean offending Ji-dong. Moreover, those present were either from the Central Plains Empire or the Devil Guild. With their close relationship with Ji-dong, why would they have an objection? Chapter 393. Prince Pingdeng Ji Yunxing and Crown Prince Ji Yeshang's words were equivalent to pushing Ji-dong to the front. Ji-dong was about to say something when Ji Zhangxin beat him to it. Since that's the case, then it's settled. Ji Yunxing smiled. Then our Central Empire has no problem. We'll convene the other 4 countries as soon as possible to discuss this matter. However, Dean Ji-dong, could you leave your Blazing Academy students in the Magic Guild for the time being? With them there, we'll be more persuasive to the other countries. Ji-dong pondered for a moment, then said, You can let them stay. As for the matter of the elder seats, let the leaders of the 5 countries and the Magic Guild discuss it. I won't participate in this matter. The general situation was settled. Ji-dong's primary goal had been accomplished. Of course, there were still many things to handle. He brought these Blazing Academy students, as well as the Heavenly Stem Holy Apostles, to follow the 2 Magic Guild presidents to the Magic Guild. Hilo and Wafo naturally treated these students as treasures, so Ji-dong didn't need to worry about anything. Before the countries reached a consensus, he couldn't impart his 5 elements mutual generation and circulation formation. Without him, this formation couldn't be stolen. The Magic Guild's conference room. Elder Ji-dong, you've brought us a gargantuan surprise today. Don't worry, the guild will definitely do its best to promote this matter. For the sake of the continent's safety, I thank you on behalf of the Magic Guild for being willing to publicize such a wondrous formation. The speaker was naturally the Magic Guild's president, Hilo. As soon as he finished speaking, he stood up and actually bowed to Hyoheim. Ji-dong hurriedly returned the greeting and said, You don't have to be like this, President Hilo. We are all working hard for the future of the continent. I will return in 2 months, and if everything goes well, I can start teaching you the 5 elements cycle formation. I will have to trouble you with the preparation work. To learn this formation, you need to have all 5 elements and separate yin and yang. Each group of 5 must be able to stay together for a long period of time before you can start learning. Otherwise, the formation will collapse if one person is missing. Moreover, it is best if each group's mana is as close as possible. This way, the cultivation will be twice the result with half the effort. Hilo nodded repeatedly and said, Leave the preliminary work to me. No matter what the other 4 countries do, our Demon Master Guild can guarantee at least 3,000 Demon Masters to form the formation. I thought you were exaggerating before, but after seeing the 5 elements cycle formation, I'm afraid the 20% increase in your chances of winning is too little. Ji-dong faintly smiled and read Hyoheim's long letter. He said, Ancestor Xian, I need the help of a sovereign stage expert or someone with an extremely powerful spiritual force to cultivate this formation. In this aspect, I will have to trouble you to contact more people. Ji Changxin said, At least the 6 of us old fellows are not a problem. I will go find them later and let them all come to the Central Plains city. As for the other sovereign stage experts, I will try. I should be able to find 1 or 2 people. After all, this is related to the safety of the continent. I believe they will not sit idly by. After Ji-dong exchanged some of his ideas and the details of the overall cultivation formation with the Demon Master Guild, this big matter could be considered to have come to an end. President Hilo, can you choose a bigger room for us? We can't be disturbed by anyone. Hilo said, No problem. You can rest assured about the safety of our Demon Master Guild. I will go arrange it right now. Ji-dong's gaze fell on Chen Xishuan and Lang Tianyi beside him. Before going to the underground treasury with the 5 elements formation, he must first let them inherit the crystal crown of the Imu Holy Disciple and the Imu Holy Disciple. In a true sense, they have gathered the 10 heavenly stems holy disciples. After a while, the Demon Master Guild's rooms were arranged. Ji-dong led everyone to bid farewell to the Demon Master Guild's higher-ups and Ji Chongxin and his wife, and went to the arranged rooms. Hilo's arrangements were naturally very appropriate. This room was located on the top floor of the Demon Master Guild. Not only was it spacious and hidden, it was also surrounded by dozens of demon masters as guards. After entering the room and closing the door, Ji-dong walked to the main seat and sat down without too much modesty. The others also sat down. There were a total of 11 people in the room. Other than the 10 Heavenly Stems holy disciples, there was also Yun Tianji. I believe everyone can guess why I want this room. We are reorganizing the Light Divinity Holy Disciples. Now we only lack the Wood Holy Disciples and the Earth Holy Disciples. Let me introduce them to everyone. Lang Tianyi, the son of the Diamond Legion's commander Lang Xie. He's not even 30 years old, but his magic power has already broken through level 70. He's an Earth Holy Disciple. I hope he can take over the position of the Earth Holy Disciple. Chen Xishuan, 19 years old, Wood Holy Disciple from the Eastern Wood Empire. She has the Goddess of Life's eternal armor, a Wood Holy artifact. Ji-dong had already made it clear that he had brought Lang Tianyi and Chen Xishuan here. Yun Tianji walked in front of Ji-dong and handed the Imu Holy Disciple and the Imu Holy Disciple to Ji-dong. He said, "Master, I support your arrangement." The 2 crystal crowns emitted a dazzling light. Dense magic waves reverberated in the room. Under the light, it added a bit of magical color. "I don't agree." At that moment, a cold voice was heard. Everyone, including Ji-dong, couldn't help but look in shock. They looked in the direction of the voice. It was Jin. After entering the room, she sat in the corner and looked at Ji-dong with a gloomy expression. Her eyes were filled with coldness. Ji-dong had never thought that someone would object to his suggestion. They were all close companions and comrades in arms, and they knew each other very well. He believed that everyone had enough trust in him. His previous question was actually more out of respect for his companions, but he didn't expect that someone would really object, and it was Jin. "Why?" Ji-dong asked with a frown. Jin pointed at Chen Xishuan, who was sitting next to Ji-dong. She said coldly, "I have no objections to the Imu Holy Disciple, but I don't agree to let her take over as the Imu Holy Disciple. Ji-dong, Master passed away less than a year ago, and you're already looking for a new lover. How can you face Master?" Everyone was shocked when they heard that. Jin didn't beat around the bush at all. She directly rebuked Ji-dong. Her words were like a sharp blade that pierced straight into Ji-dong's heart. "What did you say?" With a bang, Ji-dong's right palm struck down, and the table beside him instantly turned into ashes. He stood up abruptly, and a crazy anger rose in him. Because of his anger and grievance, Ji-dong's entire body trembled uncontrollably. Jin sneered. "What did I say? Did I say anything wrong? You and this woman wore matching outfits and appeared arm in arm in front of everyone. Aren't you looking for a new lover? In the past, you seemed to be deeply in love with Master, and Master even died for you, but you have another woman in such a short period of time. You're good, you're very good. You can let her be the holy disciple of Imu, I'll withdraw. Ji-dong, you're a hypocrite." "Jin, that's enough," Fury shouted in a deep voice. Jin said angrily, "What's enough? Did I say anything wrong? You saw what happened just now. What heavenly stem holy king." "Sister Jin." Lan Bauer stood up and went to Jin's side to hold her hand. Jin looked at her and said, "Bauer, why aren't you saying anything? Weren't you feeling dejected just now? I know you like that B***** Ji-dong too. What's so good about him? He's just a despicable person who likes the new and hates the old. Lan Bauer was stunned. Tears welled up in her eyes. She lowered her head and bit her lower lip, but she couldn't say anything else to persuade Ah Jin. The others didn't know what to say either. They had all seen the intimacy between Ji Dong and Chen Sichuan. Although they wanted to persuade Ah Jin, they really didn't know how. At this moment, Ji Dong suddenly strode toward Ah Jin. Yao Qianshu, who was sitting nearby, quickly stood up and tried to stop him. He said, "Ji Dong, don't be rash. Ah Jin was just acting out of righteous indignation." Ji Dong raised his right arm and blocked Yao Qianshu. His lips were tightly pursed, and his face was drained of blood. Ah Jin wasn't afraid at all as he walked over. The anger in his eyes didn't diminish at all. He stared straight at Ji Dong, not giving in at all. When Ji Dong was only a foot away from Ah Jin, he suddenly separated his hands. With a tearing sound, the front of his shirt was torn open, revealing his broad and solid chest. Ah Jin was stunned. If Ji Dong had attacked her because of her mother's embarrassment, she might have thought it was normal. However, suddenly tearing open his shirt and revealing his chest caused her brain to short-circuit for a moment. Even though she was angry, her pretty face couldn't help but blush. In the next moment, Ji Dong had already grabbed Ah Jin's right hand and raised it to his chest. He said in a low voice, "Come, with your cultivation, you have at least 1,000 ways to cut open my chest. See for yourself if my heart has changed." Ji Dong's incomparably cold eyes seemed to be able to freeze people. Feeling the warmth of his chest muscles, Ah Jin's face, which had previously been filled with anger, turned somewhat pale. Ji Dong roared, "Come on, cut open my chest and see for yourself. If you think my heart has changed, you can kill me on behalf of the flaming bar. Come on." He loved the flaming bar so much. He could do anything else, but he couldn't tolerate his love for the flaming bar being questioned, no matter who it was. The heavenly stem holy disciples looked at the raging Ji Dong, and no one said anything. The air in the room seemed to be frozen and heavy. They didn't know how to persuade Ji Dong or Ah Jin. At this moment, Chen Sichuan, who had been watching everything calmly, suddenly said, "I think this is a misunderstanding." No one knew better than her how deep Ji Dong's love for the flaming bar was. Looking at Ji Dong's slightly trembling broad back, Chen Sichuan's eyes couldn't help turning a little red. As she spoke, she had already walked to Ah Jin and Ji Dong. Ignoring Ji Dong's furious eyes, she raised her hands and grabbed Ji Dong's and Ah Jin's hands, separating them. "Ah Jin, I think we should talk alone." Chen Sichuan looked at Ah Jin, and Ah Jin happened to look at her. When their eyes met, Ah Jin's expression suddenly changed slightly. She seemed to have seen something in Chen Sichuan's eyes. As Chen Sichuan spoke, she had already pulled her out. Surprisingly, Ah Jin didn't resist and just let her pull her out. Bang, the door was closed. Ji Dong was still standing there, slightly panting. He was in a very bad mood. The intense pain burned his heart, and he kept calling the name of the flaming bar in his heart. Outside the door, Chen Sichuan pulled Ah Jin all the way to the next floor. Ah Jin seemed to come to her senses. She suddenly waved her hand and shook off Chen Sichuan's hand. "I have nothing to say to you." Her cold voice was full of strong killing intent. Ah Jin's fists were already clenched tightly, as if she would explode in the next moment. Chen Sichuan didn't care about her action, but she said something that made Ah Jin stunned. "Ah Jin, can I trust you?" Ah Jin frowned and said, "What do you mean?" Chen Sichuan looked at her, and their eyes met again. This time, there was a strange change in her eyes. It was a noble and warm gaze that seemed to be able to contain everything, and it carried indifference and an indistinct feeling of being far away from the mortal world. When Ah Jin noticed the change in Chen Sichuan's gaze, her entire body suddenly shook, and she said, "You use your ultimate metal demonic power to set up an isolation barrier," Chen Sichuan said calmly. This time, Ah Jin didn't say anything to object. A faint golden halo that was as dazzling as the stars floated out and instantly enveloped the two of them. With the isolation barrier set up by her ultimate demonic power, even if a supreme being was standing next to her, it would be impossible for them to hear what was said inside. Chen Sichuan silently pulled down the veil on her face and presented her perfect face to Ajin. She said, "A person's appearance may change, but the look in their eyes won't, because the eyes are the window to the soul. Ajin, I have no other choice. I can only trust you because without your help, I might never be able to be with Ji Dong." "Who exactly are you?" Ajin looked into Chen Sichuan's eyes, her eyes filled with shock and uncertainty. "Stare into my eyes and don't look away," Chen Sichuan said. It was also at this moment that a strange soul ripple floated out of her eyes and connected to Ah Jin's eyes. Everything in front of Ah Jin's eyes started to change. The first thing she saw was the scene when she woke up from the ice. In the dark red core of the earth, the beautiful and flawless girl in red, flaming bar, was standing in front of her. She slowly woke up from the ice, and the first thing she asked was, "Where is this? Who am I?" Ah Jin's entire body shook violently, because this scene only belonged to her and Flaming Bar. Chapter 394. As her eyes met Chen Sichuan's, under the guidance of her mystical soul, Ah Jin saw the scene of Chen Sichuan waking up from the ice. She slowly woke up from the ice, and the first thing she asked was, "Where am I? Who am I?" In the core world, the girl in red said indifferently, "If you've forgotten who you are, then be my servant. I've given you this honor, and I've brought you back to the human world. You should repay me by following me for 10 years. You can't disobey any of my orders, and you have to recognize me as your master." "Why?" Ah Jin said angrily without hesitation. "Because I can control everything about you. Remember my name, I'm the Flaming Bar." In the next moment the entire core world was covered in red. Ah Jin would never forget the terrifying pressure that made her soul tremble. The scene in front of her changed. This time, she appeared on the holy evil island. In the sky, the myriad lightning calamity realm had already dissipated. The red lotus heavenly fire had become a new barrier, separating the light and darkness continents. The floating flaming bar threw Ji Dong's bracelet and necklace into her hands. Surrounded by the red light, she left with Ji Dong. The scene changed again, and they were in the core world. What appeared in front of Ah Jin was the heartbreaking scene of life and death. The scene changed again, and they were in the God Realm. The trial of the 5 heavyweights of the God Realm Committee against the Flaming Bar, as well as the seemingly simple bet, were presented in front of Ah Jin. The scene finally stopped at the Dongmu Empire's palace. Princess Xian quietly got out of bed and sat in front of her dressing table. She looked at her perfect self in the mirror and muttered to herself, "My Ji Dong, how can I make you fall in love with me again? Ji Dong, we believe in you." In the end, Fury and Ji Dong were the closest. When Ji Dong's aura gradually calmed down, Fury walked up to him and comforted him softly. Ji Dong didn't speak. He pursed his lips tightly. He cared a lot about Ah Jin's opinion. Not just because she was now the Light Xin Jin Divine Disciple, but also because she used to be a member of the Flaming Bar. Yun Tianji also walked over and said, "Master, things will eventually sort themselves out. The problem will definitely be solved. How about this? Let's vote on Lady Chen Sichuan becoming the Imu Divine Disciple. If more than half agree, we'll let her join. What do you think?" Ji Dong shook his head silently and said, "No, the previous Light Branch Divine Disciple almost destroyed the entire mainland. This time, we have to turn the tide. Even if only one person disagrees, I won't make a rash decision. I've thought it through. The Heavenly Stem Imu Divine Disciple is still vacant for now. We'll talk about it when there's a better choice." After the intense anger, he calmed down and made a decision in the end. No matter what, at least for now, Ah Jin's position in his heart was higher than Chen Sichuan's. He had complicated feelings for Chen Sichuan, but Ah Jin was his partner, a close partner. He couldn't ignore Ah Jin's feelings, just because Chen Xishuan could help him increase his combat ability and had a divine weapon. Thus, even though he was extremely angry at Ah Jin's accusations, he chose to respect Ah Jin's decision in the end. Right at this moment, the door opened and Ah Jin and Chen Xishuan walked in from outside. To everyone's surprise, Chen Xishuan was the first to enter the room, and Ah Jin followed behind her. His expression was slightly unnatural and even a little strange. Seeing that they had returned, Ji Dong went up to Chen Xishuan apologetically and said, "Xishuan, I'm sorry. I've discussed it with my partners. Every member of the Light Branch Divine Disciple is extremely important, and we have to be partners in life and death. There can't be any estrangement between us. Thus, I've decided to respect Ah Jin's decision. The position of the Light Branch Divine Disciple will remain vacant for now." After making this decision, he heaved a sigh of relief. Chen Xishuan would not become the Light Branch Divine Disciple, so there was no need for him to keep her by his side. This way, there would not be any ripples in his heart, and it was not a bad thing. Looking at Ji Dong's apologetic gaze, Chen Xishuan could not help but smile. Of course, she had noticed the change in how Ji Dong addressed her. All along, Ji Dong had called her by her first name, even her surname. However, just now, he had omitted her surname. Even if it was because of the guilt in his heart, it was still a step closer. Who said that I'm against it? I support Chen Xishuan becoming the Heavenly Branch Divine Disciple. Ah Jin suddenly spoke up at that moment. Ji Dong was stunned. Looking at Ah Jin, who had a strange expression on his face, he said in a low voice, "Ah Jin, you don't have to accommodate me." Ah Jin shook her head and said, "I'm sorry, Ji Dong. I was too impulsive just now. I shouldn't have blamed you before figuring out the situation. Just now, Xishuan explained to me clearly that it was a misunderstanding. I agree that she will become a member of the Heavenly Branch Divine Disciple." This apology was sincere. She knew Chen Xishuan's identity, and Chen Xishuan had clearly told her everything that had happened between her and Ji Dong during this period of time. Ji Dong's love for the flaming bar was so deep. Looking at his white hair, Ah Jin was really regretful now. Even she did not understand why she had said such hurtful words to Ji Dong. "Are you sure?" Ji Dong asked again. Ah Jin nodded without hesitation and said, "I'm sure. Do you want me to apologize again?" Ji Dong's cold gaze finally softened a little. When he looked at Chen Xishuan again, he could not help but reveal a surprised expression. He knew Ah Jin's cold personality very well. Once she had set her mind on something, she would not change her mind easily. He did not expect Chen Xishuan to be able to convince her to accept Chen Xishuan and become the Heavenly Branch Divine Disciple in such a short time. This Princess Xian was indeed extraordinary. Fury chuckled and said, "Since no one objects, let's start now. With us protecting them, it will be easier for them to absorb the crystal crown." Ji Dong nodded and handed the Earth Branch Divine Disciple Crystal Crown and the Wood Branch Divine Disciple Crystal Crown to Lang Tianyi and Chen Xishuan respectively. "Tianji, I'll have to trouble you to learn how to absorb the crystal crown." Yun Tianji walked forward and said, "Please sit down cross-legged and hold the crystal crown with both hands. Before absorbing the crystal crown, please adjust your state of mind first. You must wait until your state of mind is stable before you can start absorbing it. After that, you must use your spiritual power to feel the changes in the crystal crown and use your own magical power and soul power to guide it. The absorption process will be very painful and also very dangerous. You must endure it. The process of magical power evolution is equivalent to changing the blood in your body. Perseverance is the most important. This is also a test of the ultimate magical power. The absorption process will be relatively long, at least 7 days, at most half a month. During this process, you must not be distracted. We will protect you." Chen Xishuan and Lang Tianyi were both smart people. After hearing Yun Tianji's words, they naturally understood what they had to do. The two of them sat cross-legged and adjusted their state of mind and breathing. After a while, they had already entered a semi-meditative state. Yun Tianji asked, "Are the two of you ready?" The two of them nodded at the same time. Yun Tianji looked at Hyoheim and gave her a questioning look. Ji Dong said, "Then let's begin." A faint dark green halo was the first to come out of Qin Sixuan's body. It was very clear that when Ji Dong said to begin, she had already entered a meditative state. Although Lang Tiany's body also quickly emitted the yellow light of the earth element, his reaction speed was clearly slower than Qin Sixuan's. Seeing this, Ji Dong couldn't help but be a little surprised. All along, Qin Sixuan had appeared with him as a support, whether it was in terms of magical power or soul. Only now did he feel that Qin Sixuan's talent was actually above Lang Tiany's. This instantaneous reaction speed must not be underestimated. They were absorbing the heavenly stem saint's crystal crown, and this reaction speed could be said to be the embodiment of each person's self-confidence and control over magical power. Lang Tiany's magical power was already close to the bottleneck of the 7 crowns, and his cultivation was clearly above Qin Sixuan's, but his reaction speed was more than a beat slower. He had known Qin Sixuan for a long time, but Ji Dong had never observed her so closely. Her face was covered with a veil, and she looked so calm as she sat there, holding the heavenly stem Imu crystal crown with both hands. Her whole person seemed to have entered a wonderful state. She was only 19 years old. Other than the extreme magical power brought to him by the flaming bar, he was probably not as good as her when he was 19 years old. Among the current heavenly stem saints, her strength might be ranked at the bottom, but her potential was undoubtedly huge. What Ji Dong saw, the others naturally saw as well, especially those who had become heavenly stem saints not long ago. They were all surprised by Qin Sixuan, especially Du Ming and Du Xen. Among the crowd, they were the weakest. They had thought that the two new heavenly stem saints would replace them at the bottom, but now it seemed that there was no chance. Whether it was Qin Sixuan or Lang Tiany, their cultivation was above theirs. Ji Dong took off the core of life from his neck, walked in front of Qin Sixuan, and gently put it on her, letting the core of life gem slide into the neckline. Under Ji Dong's deliberate avoidance, he finally did not see what he should not see from the neckline. After doing this, he walked directly in front of Lang Tiany and sat down. Obviously, in his opinion, it was more dangerous for Lang Tiany to absorb the crystal crown than Qin Sixuan. As a Imu magician, with the protection of the core of life necklace, it could be said that there was no problem for her to become a Imu saint. There was another reason why Ji Dong gave her the core of life necklace. In order to save him, Qin Sixuan's eternal armor was almost broken, and it was far from recovering. With the support of the core of life's huge life force, the eternal armor would definitely be able to recover faster, and in the process of absorbing the crystal crown, she would also be able to improve greatly. This could also be considered as Ji Dong returning part of Qin Sixuan's favor. At this moment, accompanied by the magic light emitted from Qin Sixuan and Lang Tiany, their yin-yang crowns also appeared above their head. Lang Tiany had 6 crowns and 4.5 stars, and his magic power was level 69. Qin Sixuan also had 6 crowns and 2 stars, and her cultivation was level 64. Du Xen lowered her voice and asked her brother, "Brother, why did teacher sit opposite Lang Tiany? I really don't know how they cultivate. They're so young, but they already have such strong magic power. We're not even level 60 yet." Du Ming scratched his head and said, "I also don't know why teacher sat there, but I think teacher must have his reasons." Ji Dong sat in front of Lang Tiany because of his magic power level. Fury's voice sounded in the siblings' ears. "Look, Lang Tiany's mana has already reached level 69. When both of you absorbed your respective crystal crowns, your mana also increased tremendously. Lang Tianyi will naturally experience the same situation when he absorbs the crystal crowns of the Earth Saints. However, he is already level 69 now. Once his mana increases, he will first have to face the barrier of breaking through to the 7 crowns. At this time, he will also have to endure the pain from absorbing the crystal crowns, which will easily put him in danger. Ji Dong is sitting in front of him, obviously to assist him in breaking through and protect him. After hearing Fury's words, Du Ming and Du Exhilarating came to a sudden realization. Indeed, when they became heavenly stem saints, their respective cultivation bases had increased by more than 5 levels. Du Ming was now at level 58, and Du Exhilarating was also at level 56. Ever since they followed Ji Dong, the siblings' strength could be said to have risen rapidly, and they were getting closer and closer to the 6 crowns. In the past half a year, they had also practiced with powerhouses like Yao Qianshu, Ajin, and Miao Miao, so their actual combat ability was also improving every day. Chen Sichuan sat up straight. When the core of life touched her chest, a rich life force immediately spread throughout her body. The core of life on Ji Dong and on her were 2 completely different concepts. When it was on Ji Dong, it could only increase Ji Dong's life force a little. Once he was injured, it could help him recover as soon as possible. When he needed it, it could also be used as a supplement. Because wood feeds fire, it would also increase Ji Dong's mana to a certain extent. However, because the core of life contained more life force, the increase was not too great. However, when the core of life was used on Chen Sichuan, it felt completely different. As a possessor of Imu mana, when Chen Sichuan left the palace, she had put on the eternal armor and fused with the armor. The profound meaning of the Imu element was the endless continuation of life. The core of life and her complemented each other. When the huge life force was injected into her body, the eternal armor hidden in Chen Sichuan's body immediately reacted. It greedily absorbed the huge life force and transformed it into extreme Imu mana before injecting it into Chen Sichuan's body. In addition to the stimulation of Chen Sichuan's mana by the huge life force, at this moment, her mana was increasing exponentially. Chapter 395. The dark green mana emitted by Chen Sichuan's body gradually changed. The original dark green that was full of vitality began to become somewhat transparent, and the mana was no longer pure light. Instead, it was like a dense mist that flickered with the light of treasures. This treasure light was not only the radiance of magic power, but it was also emitted from Chen Sichuan's skin. That kind of feeling was very mysterious. The veil on her face could not conceal the radiance. Vaguely, everyone could already see her perfect face and the beauty of her waist, which made them want to take a peek at it. With a soft hum, the dense Imu mana was subdued by the Imu Saint crystal crown in Chen Sichuan's hand. A dense pillar of black crystal light rose from her palms and instantly expanded, forming a pillar of light with a diameter of 1 meter, completely enveloping Chen Sichuan's body. The crystal light was like jade, and the dense aura of life made everyone in the room feel relaxed and happy. A shocked expression appeared on everyone except Ji Dong. This was the first time Ji Dong had seen the process of absorbing the crystal crown, so he naturally had no idea, but it was not the first time the others had seen it. They could still vividly remember the previous absorption process. Although everyone had succeeded, it could be said that they had gone through a lot of hardships during the absorption process. It was not easy to increase one's strength in all aspects and evolve one's mana to the extreme. If one could endure it, they would be a powerhouse of a generation, and if they could not, they would die. Although Du Ming, Du Exhilarating, and the others had all succeeded, they would still lose a few layers of skin even if they did not die. Among the previous few people, the one who had the easiest time absorbing was naturally Ajin. She had the extreme metal magic power, so the crystal crown was directly absorbed into her body without any rejection or other special circumstances. It only took her 3 days to complete the absorption process. Next was Miao Miao. Although Miao Miao did not have extreme magic power, she had felt the mysteries of extreme magic power many times with the help of the staff of the Earth Goddess. She had also used this kind of magic power before. Therefore, it was much easier for her to comprehend the extreme Earth magic power than the others. It took her 7 days to complete the entire absorption process. Lan Bauer was second only to Miao Miao. Her talent was extremely good, and she came from the Yinyang school. Her foundation was extremely solid, and her strong perseverance allowed her to complete the entire process in 10 days. As for Du Ming and Du Xin'er, they both took more than 10 days. They had narrowly escaped death several times, and only succeeded with the protection and help of the others. However, Chen Xishuan's situation had already exceeded everyone's experience. Even when Jin absorbed the extreme metal crystal crown, it took him an entire 2 hours to complete the connection between his own mana and the extreme metal crystal crown. However, Chen Xishuan, who was in front of them, had actually used less than a quarter of an hour to awaken the crystal crown in her hand. How powerful was this? If her reaction speed before was still acceptable to everyone, then when they saw that her body was enveloped by the extreme Ewood magic power light beam, and that the crystal crown had completed the connection with her body and had begun to fuse with her body, everyone looked at her as if they were looking at a monster. One had to know that she was different from Jin. She was just an ordinary Ewood magic power. Of course, they didn't know that Chen Xishuan's experience in controlling mana was calculated in tens of thousands of years. Although she now had wood magic power instead of the fire magic power from before, the 5 elements of mana were different routes to the same destination. The experience of the flaming bar in her previous life now belonged to Chen Xishuan. A trace of divine sense left in her soul easily helped her soul complete the connection with the crystal crown. She completed the connection between her own mana and the crystal crown in the fastest, most direct, and simplest way. With the help of the core of life and the eternal armor, the absorption of the crystal crown, which was a test of life and death for others, was just a process for her. It took Chen Xishuan 5 days to complete the entire absorption process. After all, she was not like Jin, who had extreme magic power. Although there was no delay in the absorption process, it took a process for the extreme magic power to fuse with her body, so it took 5 days. When the last of the Ewood Crystal Crown's magic power finished fusing with her, her magic power also broke through the shackles in an instant, directly breaking through the barrier of the 7 crowns. Her overall magic power increased by more than 7 levels, and her magic power cultivation reached level 71. Among everyone, the one with the highest cultivation was undoubtedly Fury, the Thunder Emperor, at level 78, followed by Jin at level 77, Miao Miao at level 75, and Ji Dong at level 72. Yao Qianshu had just broken through to the 7 crowns. There was no doubt that she had entered the first group in terms of magic power level. Of course, after Lang Tianyi completed the absorption, his magic power level would definitely rise to the 7 crowns. After all, he was much older than Ji Dong and the others. Lan Bauer's magic power had reached level 66, and she was getting closer and closer to level 70. Only Du Ming and Du Xin'er were still struggling below level 60. Unlike Chen Xishuan, Lang Tianyi's absorption of the Holy Disciple Crystal Crown was not as smooth. It could be said that he had experienced many difficulties. If it were not for Ji Dong's comprehensive protection and support, it would have been very difficult for him to complete the absorption process. Ji Dong's worry was reasonable. When Lang Tianyi began to absorb the Crystal Crown's magic power, the first thing he faced was the huge problem of breaking through the bottleneck. The 7 crowns bottleneck prevented his own magic power from increasing and transforming, and the great pain of transforming made him unable to concentrate to break through the bottleneck. The huge amount of magic power almost burst his body. Fortunately, Ji Dong intervened in time. He used his powerful soul force and chaotic force to forcefully intervene in the absorption process, helping him focus his mind and supporting his soul force. Only then did he turn the situation around and break through to the 7 crowns in one go. Of the 5 elements, fire gave birth to earth. Ji-dong used his dual fire magic power to take advantage of the great opportunity of absorbing the crystal crown to help Lang Tiany's magic power greatly increase, reaching level 74 in one go. Coupled with the fact that his magic had evolved to the limit and he had become a holy disciple of the light earth, his strength had undergone a tremendous change. "Teacher Ji-dong, don't you want us anymore?" Zi Qinxing asked rather anxiously. He was not the only one who had this question. The students Ji-dong had brought from Blazing Academy all looked at Ji-dong hopefully. Looking at the students he had brought out, Ji-dong showed a rare smile. He said, "How could I not want you? It's just that I have some private matters to attend to, so I'll be leaving for a while. Once it's over, I'll naturally come for you. The Demon Master Headquarters is a place that all Demon Masters yearn for. In this period of time, you must absorb as much knowledge as possible. I've already communicated with President Hilo. President Hilo will do his best to help you. At the same time, your 5 elements coexistence and circulation formation is an important guarantee to convince every empire to accept my conditions. This will be a form of training for you. When you return to Blazing Academy, the reputation of the Sun Moon Hall will definitely not be inferior to the Inyang Hall." Hearing Ji-dong say this, the students clearly heaved a sigh of relief. In these days at the Demon Master Headquarters, they had received extremely high treatment. They understood that this was all brought to them by the 5 elements coexistence and circulation formation, which was also given to them by Ji-dong. With their weak mana, if it wasn't for the formation that teacher Ji-dong taught them, who would care about them? They also understood that their lives had already changed because of teacher Ji-dong. Therefore, every one of them was filled with a kind of gratitude towards Ji-dong. Even though they knew that with their strength, it was basically impossible for them to do anything for their teacher Ji-dong, they were still willing to spend more time at Ji-dong's side. "After I leave, your cultivation cannot be delayed. Apart from the necessary social engagements, you must continue your cultivation every day. The 5 elements cycle array is not only a combination of attack and defense, but more importantly, it can assist your cultivation. Only by persevering in your cultivation can you truly improve your magic power. Only then will you be able to enter the ranks of the strong as soon as possible." "Yes." The 30 students answered in unison. Now that they had gone through countless tests, they absolutely obeyed Ji-dong's orders. After warning the Blazing Academy students, Ji-dong and his companions set out, passing Tianji City and heading straight for the underground palace's treasure trove. Not long after Ji-dong left Central Plains City, the Demon Master Guild welcomed a special guest. Zhou Xiaoxiao's enormous body rushed into the Demon Master Guild's main hall. As soon as he entered, his mana circulated and the 9 crowns sun crown impressively appeared above his head. Even though he didn't release any suppressive power, that tyrannical mana fluctuation instantly flooded the entire hall, becoming the focus of everyone's attention. A 9 crowns sovereign. In this world, the majority of demon masters wouldn't be able to see one even once in their lifetime. He rushed in so urgently and released his yin-yang crown at the first moment, immediately shocking everyone present. The first impression he gave everyone was that he had come to make a scene. Ever since the Demon Master Guild merged with the Magic Skill Guild, their prestige was like the sun in the sky, and they even had the shadows of 6 supreme powers behind them. Someone came to make a scene at this time? Where's your chairman? Call your chairman to see me. Zhou Xiaoxiao's loud voice echoed in the hall. The demon masters in the hall looked fearfully at the 9 crowns sun crown above his head, each and every one of them keeping quiet out of fear. Someone immediately went to inform Hilo and Wofu. Hilo and Wofu naturally didn't dare be negligent when a supreme power came, rushing to the hall at the first moment. Seeing Zhou Xiaoxiao, the two couldn't help being startled. They didn't have any concept of Zhou Xiaoxiao. In their memories, there wasn't such a powerful demon master. The 9-crowned Sun Crown impressively displayed tyrannical strength of rank 96. Even compared to Ji Zhangxin, it was still superior. Seeing such a powerful person, and moreover directly rushing into the guild, how could they not be shocked? It was no wonder they didn't recognize Zhou Xiaoxiao. As the chairman of the world's #1 merchant guild, Zhou Xiaoxiao naturally wouldn't come to the Demon Master Guild for an examination. He wasn't on the same line as the Demon Master Guild. Honorable Transmission Holiness, hello, I am the Demon Master Guild's chairman Hilo. I wonder what business you have with our Demon Master Guild? Even though he was apprehensive of the other's strength, Hilo was still full of confidence, greeting him with large strides. Zhou Xiaoxiao didn't beat around the bush and said, "Where's Ji Dong? He's in your guild, right? Quickly call this kid out, I have urgent matters to discuss with him." Hearing this, Hilo came to a sudden realization and said, "So you're looking for the law enforcement elder, but he has already left for some time." Left? Hearing Hilo's words, Zhou Xiaoxiao couldn't help but feel anxious and said, "When did he leave? Where did he go?" Hilo said, "He left 2 days ago. As for where he went, I don't know." Zhou Xiaoxiao frowned and said, "You really don't know? I'm looking for him for something important." Hilo's expression slightly sank and said, "Transmission Holiness, this is the Demon Master Guild, not your intelligence department. Moreover, we really don't know where the law enforcement elder went." Zhou Xiaoxiao's expression became even more unsightly. He also knew that he had come in a hurry, but he was really too anxious at the moment. He said, "Then what about Big Brother Ji Zhangxin, is he here?" Hearing Zhou Xiaoxiao call Ji Zhangxin Big Brother, Hilo's expression immediately eased up a bit and said, "Transmission Holiness is here, please wait a moment, I'll go invite him right away." Ji Zhangxin and Shangguan Yinkong overseeing the Demon Master Guild was the most important reason for his confidence. There's no need to invite him. This fatty made such a big commotion, how could we not know? Along with the voice, Ji Zhangxin and Shangguan Yinkong had already arrived together and walked down the stairs. Ji Zhangxin and his wife walked out immediately after sensing Zhou Xiaoxiao's powerful demonic undulations. After all, there weren't many honorable beings on the continent, especially honorable beings of the gunmetal series. "Big Brother Ji, little brother came rashly, please forgive me." Zhou Xiaoxiao took large strides forward and arrived in front of Ji Zhangxin and his wife, deeply bowing. With his cultivation and status, this was already giving Ji Zhangxin and his wife enough face. This guy was the president of the world's #1 Chamber of Commerce, and in terms of integrity, he was naturally incomparable to other supremes. Not only did he not have the lofty arrogance of supremes, but he also had a bit of the rich and noble aura of a merchant, and even an air of licentiousness. "Fatty, why did you come to the Demon Master Guild with such great fanfare? Look at you, it seems like you want to tear this place down." Seeing Ji Zhangxin and Shangguan Yinkong, Zhou Xiaoxiao had to follow the proper etiquette no matter how anxious he was. Although Ji Zhangxin's tone was somewhat dissatisfied, there was more of a bit of ridicule in his eyes. After all, in front of them, Zhou Xiaoxiao was like a little brother, and this had nothing to do with cultivation. In fact, Ji Zhangxin and his wife were also shocked to see Zhou Xiaoxiao. Although they hadn't seen each other for a few years, this fatty was not even 80 years old, and his cultivation had actually reached the 96th rank, even surpassing Ji Zhangxin. Chapter 396. Zhou Xiaoxiao's arrival surprised Ji Zhangxin and his wife. On one hand, it was because Zhou Xiaoxiao had reached rank 96, and on the other hand, they were curious about the purpose of his trip. With Zhou Xiaoxiao's status, he actually released his yin-yang crown the moment he arrived at the Devil Guild. In addition to his anxious look, it was very obvious that he did this to save time. However, what matter could make an expert like him, the wealthiest person in the world, so anxious that he even went to the Devil Guild? Shi Luo and Wofu heaved a sigh of relief. With the appearance of two Supreme Being experts, there was naturally nothing for them to do. This was a problem for Supreme Being experts like them. Ji Zhangxin and Shangguan Yinkong had originally planned to leave the Devil Master's headquarters, but because Ji Dong suddenly brought that almost miraculous formation, the two Supreme Being experts chose to stay. One was to study the mysteries of the formation brought by Ji Dong, and the other was because of Ji Dong's request. It was Ji Dong who asked them to stay here. "Big brother Ji, you have to help me this time. Otherwise, I'll be in trouble. It's hundreds of thousands per second." Zhou Xiaoxiao looked at Ji Zhangxin with a pitiful expression. He didn't have the slightest self-awareness of a Supreme Being expert at all. Ji Zhangxin scolded him with a smile. "Enough, you rich man. Why are you running to me and crying about being poor? Don't give me that. What's the matter? Just say it. You're in such a hurry. Don't tell me you're here to look for us? I don't remember having any business dealings with you." Zhou Xiaoxiao smiled bitterly. "I'm indeed here for a business matter. I'm here to look for your great-great-grandson, Ji Dong. This brat, Sai, really gives me a headache." Hearing Zhou Xiaoxiao mention Ji Dong, Ji Zhangxin and Shangguan Yinkong's expressions immediately became cautious. In their hearts, this great-grandson was their most precious treasure. The equivalent monarch's bloodline had produced such a peerless genius, and he might even become the continent's highest Supreme Being in the future. How could they not attach importance to him? Zhou Xiaoxiao, as the foolishly rich president of the Chamber of Commerce, could be said to belong to another level. If he had a grudge with Ji Dong, it wouldn't be easy to handle. "Fatty, what kind of business would make you come here personally? And what does it have to do with Ji Dong? I'm warning you, if you dare touch a single hair on Ji Dong's head, not only will I not forgive you, but you should also be careful of brother Chaoyang." Ji Zhangxin knew that this fatty had a close relationship with Yin Zhaoyang. Back when he hadn't become the foolish rich Chamber of Commerce's president, Yin Zhaoyang had once saved his life. It could be said that the fatty listened to Yin Zhaoyang's every word. Zhou Xiaoxiao looked like she was in pain. The fat on her face squeezed together, causing her small eyes to be almost invisible. She said, "Big brother Ji, I couldn't not come. Our foolishly rich merchant association was suddenly shut out by the two empires. How could I not come for such a big matter? It's a bit of an exaggeration to say that it's a few 100,000 per second, but if it's a few 100,000 per minute, that's not a problem." Ji Zhangxin said in shock, "What did you say? Two empires refused to let you in? How could such a thing happen? Which empire would offend your foolishly rich merchant association, and what does it have to do with Ji Dong?" At this moment, he also realized the seriousness of the problem. The foolishly rich merchant association had been operating on the continent for 500 years. Its foundation was so deep that no other country could compare to it. Even the government had to give them some respect. Suddenly, two empires shut them out. In Ji Zhangxin's opinion, this was an unimaginable opportunity. Zhou Xiaoxiao said, "Isn't it your Middle-earth Empire and the Eastern Wood Empire? If it's just the Eastern Wood Empire, it'll be easier to handle. To put it bluntly, if our merchant association were to exert full pressure, even the Eastern Wood Empire wouldn't be able to handle it. The problem is, they're still the continent's strongest country. The Middle-earth Empire has also announced that they're cutting off all cooperation with our merchant association. Furthermore, they want our merchant association to withdraw from the Middle-earth Empire's territory within half a month. This is a loss we can't afford." Ji Zhangxin frowned and said, "Fatty, you can't be making fun of me, right? It's possible if you're talking about other countries, but why would our Middle-earth Empire cut off relations with your merchant association? Why haven't I heard of this before?" It should be known that the current political situation of the Middle-earth Empire was actually in the hands of the prince equivalent. Ji Yunxing and Ji Yeshang, the grandfather and grandson duo, had long made the current Emperor Ji Yunlu a mere figurehead. Without their approval, it was impossible for such an important matter to be completed. Zhou Xiaoxiao sighed and said, "This matter is also our merchant association's fault. It's like this, as it turned out, after Ji Dong had led the students away from the foolishly rich hotel, the message that Chen Xishuan had sent back to the Eastern Wood Empire through Chen Longao, the war god of annihilation, had been effective. Perhaps because her threat had been too strong, the Eastern Wood Empire had, in a short period of time, announced that they would reject all trade with the foolishly rich merchant association and forbade it from doing business in the Eastern Wood Empire. This news quickly spread to the headquarters of the foolishly rich merchant association and caused a huge commotion. The foolishly rich merchant association had been established for 500 years and had experienced many trials and tribulations. However, this was the first time they had been rejected by a country. No one understood what had happened. At this time, the news from the foolish rich hotel in Central Plains City that Ji Dong had been rejected by the general manager of the hotel had also reached the headquarters. In the beginning, no one connected these two matters together. As the president of the Merchant Association, Zhou Xiaoxiao was the first to receive these two pieces of news and was immediately furious. He immediately issued an order to remove the general manager from his position and transfer him back to the headquarters for trial. Just as he thought of the Tumu Saintess Chen Xishuan, who was with Ji Dong from Ji Dong, another piece of shocking news came from the Central Plains Empire. The Central Plains Empire similarly announced that they would sever all trade with the foolishly rich merchant association. At the same time, everything belonging to the foolish rich merchant association, including their assets, had to be withdrawn from the Central Plains Empire within half a month, otherwise they would all be confiscated. This move could be said to be even more ruthless than the Tumu Empire. The Tumu Empire still left some leeway, but the Central Plains Empire didn't leave any leeway at all. Zhou Xiaoxiao naturally couldn't sit still and quarreled with the Merchant Association's conference group. After he linked these three matters together, the faint voices of doubt in the conference group instantly quieted down, and no one couldn't help but curse the general manager of the hotel in their hearts. For the interests of the Merchant Association, as well as to win back the almost perfect successor Ji Dong, Zhou Xiaoxiao immediately prepared to set off for the Central Plains city to mediate this matter. It was also at this time that another extremely shocking piece of news came. Blazing Academy's Vice Dean Ji Dong led 30 Blazing Academy students with an average of less than 3 champions in a competition with the Heavenly STEM Academy. They defeated the top 30 students of the Yinyang Hall with a mystical formation, shocking the magic world. The headquarters issued a joint statement with the Central Plains Empire. Hearing this news, Zhou Xiaoxiao even had the heart to tear that general manager apart. He was originally extremely optimistic about Ji Dong, but he hadn't expected this kid to actually be able to bring so many miracles. It couldn't be helped. He could only run to the Central Plains city from the West Jin Empire's capital as fast as possible to resolve this matter. The first place he went to was naturally the Magic Master Guild. In his opinion, the recently famous Ji Dong would definitely stay here. Unfortunately, he was still a step too late. After listening to Zhou Xiaoxiao's account, Ji Changxin's expression sank, saying, "All right, Fatty, you've come to poach our equivalent King's Branch? It's fine that you're trying to poach him, but your subordinates actually dared to come and beat up my family's Ji Dong. Good luck. In Kong, let's go." With that, Ji Zhangxin turned around and left, not leaving any face for Fatty. "Big brother, big sister-in-law, don't be like this. What's more, I really didn't know about this matter. It's my subordinates who are insensible. I will go back and punish them severely. Moreover, the matter of the two empires cutting off the trade with our guild is probably not Ji Dong's idea. This can be counted as an undeserved calamity. I will definitely explain to Ji Dong. However, should we first let the Central Plains Empire resume the trade with our Chamber of Commerce, or else the loss will be too great for us. Ji Chongxin flicked his sleeves and said indifferently, Fatty, I'm just a free cloud and a wild crane, I can't make decisions in the Central Plains Empire's affairs, you should look for the current emperor. Moreover, if you do something wrong, you have to take responsibility, not just anyone can be beaten up. I don't know why Ji Dong agreed to inherit your position as the Chamber of Commerce's president, but I will never agree. If you want the Central Plains Empire to resume trade with your Chamber of Commerce, you should look for Ji Dong. Without his permission, I believe the Central Plains Empire will not give face to the foolishly rich Chamber of Commerce this time. After listening to Zhou Xiaoxiao's account, he already understood what was going on. Without a doubt, this was done by the grandfather and grandson duo, Ji Yunxing and Ji Yesheng. They wanted to stand up for Ji Dong, and as the ancestor, he, who held Ji Dong in high regard, naturally would not object. Instead, he was extremely supportive. Ji Dong was now their exclusive property. This was not a simple matter of face. Big brother, I also want to look for this brat, but you have to tell me where he is now. Zhou Xiaoxiao wailed. He was really depressed. Everything had been going well, but it had suddenly become a big problem. How could he not be in pain? In fact, he did not care about losing a bit of money. The foolishly rich Chamber of Commerce had a lot of resources, and the one who made a big mistake this time was the opposition in the council. Without a doubt, after this blow, the opposition's already weak power was fatally destroyed. He was worried about Ji Dong, the heir. It had not been easy for him to get Ji Dong to become the heir of the Chamber of Commerce. If Ji Dong ignored him because of this, wouldn't he have to serve the Chamber of Commerce in pain for decades? Moreover, he knew that he could not find a better choice than Ji Dong. Ji Zhongxin said impatiently, I also don't know where that stingy fellow brought his companions to. Your foolishly rich Chamber of Commerce is known as the world's #1, and its information network is enough to surpass any country. Could it be that you still can't find him? But we are now being chased away by the Middle-earth Empire. How can I find him? If I can't find him in a short period of time, the loss this time will be huge. How about this, Big Brother Ji? I have always admired the Magicians' Guild. Since I am here, I am prepared to donate some money to the Magicians' Guild. Let's make it 1,000,000 gold coins. I won't make things difficult for Big Brother, as long as you allow our Chamber of Commerce to stay in the dagger of the Middle-earth Empire. Temporarily stopping business for a period of time, after all, the loss wouldn't be too great. But if they had to withdraw, all the money that they didn't withdraw would be confiscated. To the foolishly rich Chamber of Commerce, it would be a huge loss. Fixed assets like the foolishly rich Chamber of Commerce couldn't be withdrawn, no matter how they saved it. After pondering for a moment, Ji Zhongxin nodded and said, All right, I will help you this once. But you better find Ji Dong as soon as possible. If it takes too long, I'm afraid my words won't be of any use. Zhou Xiaoxiao heaved a sigh of relief. She sighed in her heart. Ji Dong, Ji Dong, you brat, you actually brought me so much trouble. I really underestimated you. I never thought that your attitude could actually affect the two empires. Big brother, I heard that the students brought by Ji Dong have a very good formation. Can you let me take a look at it? Ji Zhongxin said. If you want to go back and persuade the royal family of the West Jin Empire, of course you can. While Zhou Xiaoxiao was running around for the sake of the foolishly rich Chamber of Commerce and mobilizing all the resources of the Chamber of Commerce to find Ji Dong had already led his companions through the misty swamp and into the underground palace for the second time. This time, it was a lot smoother. Other than Fury and Ji Dong, everyone else could use their own mana to gain the recognition of the magical formation. As for Ji Dong and Fury, there weren't many things in the world that could stop them. Ji Dong directly used his chaotic force to clear the energy of the formation and forcefully barged into the underground palace with Fury. After entering the underground palace, Ji Dong assigned everyone to their respective palaces, while he and Fury entered the fire-type palace to cultivate. This time, they didn't have much time. Their main goal was to let everyone memorize the 5 elemental formations and understand some of them. Everyone's cultivation was much higher than when Ji Dong and Yao Qianshu were still in the underground palace. With more than a month's time, understanding a few basic formations was not a problem. Ji Dong, tell me more about your deity strike. I don't know why, but after mastering the first level of the deity strike, I found it hard to progress any further. This skill is very useful. If we use it properly, even a 9-crown demon master would not be able to withstand our attack. Fury had always been very interested in Ji Dong's deity slaying strike. Although this skill could only be used in close combat, it was still very powerful.